here we are. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. This is KïnderGardens, all things Pleiadian and alien. And this is with our wonderful guest speaker, Bill Watkins. And I'm so excited to have you here, my friend. We go back many, many years. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history with Bill and I, and you're going to see why synchronicity, being one of his favorite words, has brought us together so that we can join forces and really help some messages get out to the world. So we are excited about that. So I would like to first of all do a little bit of an outline. We would like to help you know that this is actually a live landing link that we're going to be sending and putting onto our Telegram page and our Facebook page. This will allow you to go back and to use this information. There's lots of links that we've included. And again, anyone who knows what we do, we are all about feeling. And I usually take about a week to put together one of these programs. And Kim and I did it within 24 hours. So thank you, Kim. My goodness, having you as my right hand where I'm like, Kim, I need this, I need that. I was also messaging Bill saying, Bill, I need some information. We were able to build just a beautiful platform and a program where you can go and learn so much. And one of the things you're going to learn tonight is about the planet Elohim. So as anyone who has watched the interview from Bill, doing some translations within the Bible, we have discovered that the word father is actually a place. And as a result of that, we have also discovered that it is a planet. And we're going to show you where it is today. And also in relation to where it is as far as where we are on Earth. We're going to talk about the Pleiadians. So this is a big one. Again, a lot of people have heard about the Pleiadians, and to have an actual contactee among us, my goodness, it's fantastic. Darren and I work with the Pleiadians as well, but to have somebody that's been doing it for 20 years, fascinating. The Pleiadians just started reaching out to me, about a year ago, but to have someone who they've been working with for, 20 years, my goodness, you can only imagine the relationship that this man has with them. So we'll be talking about the Pleiadians, where they live, why they are contacting specific people right now, Bill being among them, and certain traits to look for even within yourself to see if you have a strong Pleiadian pull. Again, you're not just limited to one form of our ancestors. You're not just Arcturian, you're not just Pleiadian, you're not just Syrian, Lemurian. You in our DNA, we have many strands. We've been embedded and planted with the seeds of much consciousness within the universe. But at this time, our Pleiadian DNA is activating quite actively. And the reason for that is because they are the closest to us. They look the most like us. So it's easier for them to connect with us and for us to connect with them because they do have a similar appearance. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. I'll actually share my experience that I had with Darren and the 3 Pleiadians that showed themselves to me. So fascinating. We'll talk about the Hammurabi Code. As you know, Bill has mentioned this. He believes he has the other half to the Hammurabi Code, and it's fascinating. Darren is going to be putting his little equity twist on this as well, which just is so exciting when you really understand how equity plays into this and how they've really removed that. There's so much legal, but as far as what is universal, that's something different. Bill has also talked about remote viewing, and this is a fascinating not extraterrestrial, it's an extrasensory ability where you can actually sense with your mind certain targets based on tapping into the frequency or the vibration of a specific energy. And it doesn't matter about distance, it doesn't matter about time, when it happened. As long as you can lock into that channel, you're able to actually go and view things. And the government has been using this for a very long time. it was wonderful having the opportunity to go and feel the energy of the internet and watch as my team brought me through so many different wormholes. Oh my goodness, I can't even begin to tell you how many I went down. But I could feel it instantly when it was a wormhole I had to get out of versus one that resonated with me. And I checked in even with Bill and with Kim to make sure that, this was the frequency that we wanted to deliver, and of course our team as well. And then I'm going to teach you guys how to connect with these beautiful extraterrestrial beings. This is what's beautiful about them connecting with us right now, is that they want to connect with us. They want us to know that they are there. And like anything, if everything is energy, it's just about now tapping in or tweaking, tuning into that energy to be able to hear the information. So we're going to be talking about that. There's 3 things I'm going to give you. I'm not going to overwhelm you, but this is going to open up your communication so that you're going to start getting your messages, get a lot clearer, and see the big picture on this. And then finally, we're going to finish up with some questions and answers. And Bill and Dïevergent is going to answer your out of this world questions. We have compiled them. We found 10 major ones. A lot of them are going to be answered just through us going through this. But again, anything that we haven't covered, you are welcome to ask it at the end. And that includes you, Easton. If you have any questions, you just let Bill know, okay? Wonderful. So Darren is here. I'm going to bring him in now. So just one moment. All right, come on in. Oh, I guess I have to move all my stuff, don't I? Okay, beautiful. So without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Bill Watkins. He is a Pleiadian contactee. He has been contacted for quite some time. He's an Inca shaman. He has a huge Christian background, which is fantastic, having to be able to go and pull from so many scriptures, so much knowledge. And as we know, there's a lot of what's happening is involved and prophetic of what's happening and depicted in the Bible. He has a level 3 Melchizedek method. Can you please explain that, Bill? What exactly is that?
Oh, well, nobody's asked me that question in a long time, because the reason is that hardly anybody knows about even what it is. You could explain, it's explained on the, if you Google it, there's all kinds of information, but basically it has to do with transportation, what do you call it? Transportation, mental telepathy, and levitation. Now, no, I can't levitate. I took the course. I wish I could levitate, that's coming. So it's all of these things about increase. Oh, the main thing is how to increase your vibration. If you Google the Melchizedek method, there's a lot of things on there. It's about the flower of life and increase, how to increase your vibration and all that. Just what Jody in there teaching. So that would be another tool. And but yes, it's been a few years ago, and I haven't really. I've been involved with so much of the Pleiadian and Shaman persuasion, and getting messages from listening to the remote viewers. I just haven't had time to spend much time with the Melchizedek method, but it's very interesting. And I would suggest you Google it, and maybe you could learn something from there.
Absolutely. And you are an energy healer as well. And that's, I think, what initially attracted me to Bill. And I have to say, as far as Bill and I's history, we used to work trade shows together. And I had my business, and him and his wife had their candy fudge business. So whenever you went to a trade show, if you wanted a candy apple, you wanted popcorn, you wanted lemonade, this was the man that you went to. He was in the background making it. And I noticed him right away, and he looks just like my father. And it's unparalleled. And I am actually estranged from my parents for over 20 years. And so to see someone who looks just like my dad,
he was been a handsome man.
He was very handsome.
By the way, let me correct you for a moment about this trade show business. And you mentioned that I was making stuff in the background. I think my wife might be watching this eventually. Now, she is the maker. She makes the fudge. It's her business. I just hang on with both hands. So I don't want that to go by with, everybody thinking that I did it. She's the one that made it. But okay,
This
go
is
ahead.
true. Her fudge is off the charts, no doubt. But yes, when I just walked up to him and I just said, I just have to say, you look so much like my dad. And, throughout our conversations, he knew and found out that I was estranged from him. And at one point he says, well, then you probably need this, don't you? And he wrapped his arms around me and gave me a big hug. And I will never forget that. And thank you for that, Bill. And from that point on, I would just let people walk by because I was so fascinated by these Pleiadian conversations I was having with this man. He was introducing me to things I'd never heard of before, but when I just listened to it, you want to talk about levitate, my soul did, my aura did. He just lit something up in me, and we just kept talking and we kept our relationship intact. And, back then when we were doing this kind of stuff, it was very taboo. We would be like, Pleiadian. And then all of a sudden someone would be walking by and we go quiet. And then they pass by and then we start talking again. And, it's wonderful to see that we're now at a place in our consciousness where we can have these conversations. And Bill and I always knew we were going to be working together. And I kept saying to him over and over, just hold on. I need to get a platform for us. I need a platform for us. And now I have one. And I have a feeling that Bill is going to be a very well-known and, frequent guest speaker with Dïevergent, because again, he speaks our language. He's in tune with what we're in tune with. So you can only imagine the wisdom and wealth of knowledge that we're going to get here tonight. So thank you, Bill, for showing up. And if I may draw your attention, this gentleman has a master's in CS. Does anyone know or heard of anyone that has a master's in CS? I actually had to text him. And I was like, wow, Bill, I thought I knew all of your credentials. I'm like, what is a master's in CS? This gentleman has a master's in common sense.
And it's kind of rare. I found that it's kind of rare. If you find anybody with a master's in common sense, better tag along behind.
Absolutely. So I couldn't help but just giggle at that because, again, this gentleman is 86 years old. There's not too many of us that can stand before him and say, you know what, I'm kind of questioning you a little bit, because he has walked this earth for most of us twice as long as we have. And so it is an absolute privilege to have you here, Bill. Thank you so much. We consider it an honor to have you here. And, as you start to drop these beautiful pearls of wisdom about the Bible and, uncoding some things that have just been beneath our understanding at this point, just because of vibrationally where we were. And as we're starting to collectively come together and join forces, we are beginning to enlighten each other. So with that, I have also attached, I'll just share my screen here again. I have attached his interview as well. So when we do send out the link, if you have not seen his amazing interview that he did, make sure you do that, where he will reveal some interesting points about Elohim and exactly what the Bible's talking about when they mentioned the Father. So with that, some new findings, according to Bill. I summarized this very quickly as far as what that interview does go through, as far as the concordance, defining the Father as a place, that if the Father isn't a God and Elohim is not a God, it must be a planet. And the fact that he heard, as I come from the Father, meaning Elohim is a planet, it must be located in Pleiades. And so I remember Bill telling me this as far as, when he was so excited. Our first interview, I'm trying to remember when that was. I think it was in March sometime when this information was first delivered to you. He messaged me, he's like, Jody, I got to talk to you. So I woke up in the morning and I got a Zoom together with him, and he's like, this information. And he sent me this. And so what we want to do, loved ones, is help you understand where Elohim is. This is the power of spirit. When spirit's able to give you a message as far as this is the name of a planet, which means the Father, to have the ability to go on the internet and to be able to find it. So here we are. This is the Milky Way. You're going to notice a circle here. This circle blowing up. These are the different solar systems. Okay, so this is our solar system right here. Here is the Pleiades star cluster. Now, it's light years away from us, but when you look at the big spectrum, they're pretty close, aren't they? We can definitely see why they are trying to transmit to us right now. Now, this is what Bill sent me, which was fascinating. Now, Elohim is a star that was located a number of parsecs away from Earth and the Sol system in Federation space, near the border between the galaxies Alpha and Beta quadrants. Now, can you find it? So I'm going to actually just pull this up. This is, I like to kind of have everything so you guys can see it. So here is the actual solar system. Look for Elohim, loved ones. See if you can find it. So Bill, do you want to talk about the moment when you actually, were getting this information, you went and searched and you found this, please?
Well, like I said, none of this is going to make much sense to anyone. I really encourage you to watch that documentary, because that's where the bells went off. It went ding, ding, when they told me that there was a planet in the solar system that sent messages to planet Earth. And like I say, I don't claim to be a remote viewer. I don't think that quick on my feet. But these guys, they use a chart or a whiteboard, and they get it and write it down on the board. But when they told me there was a planet in the solar system that sent messages to planet Earth, that's when my guys started to talk to me. After, the next day, I got to thinking, they're the ones that directed me to the Bible. They brought to my attention that it's not that Jesus he never mentioned anything about God in the Bible as far as I know himself. Now, when the Council of Nicaea, when they got a hold of everything and put their narrative in it, they probably said that Jesus used the word God on occasion. I'm under the impression that Jesus never used the word God, because he, if somebody nails you to the cross, I think it's pretty hard to turn around and love this guy with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. So I think Jesus kind of doesn't like God and religion, especially what they did for him. He went ahead and said, okay, I'll play your silly game to become righteous. Everybody was unrighteous under Adam. And Jesus said, okay, Jehovah, I'll play your silly game. Nobody's become righteous until the law is fulfilled. The law, the 630 laws that Jehovah gave to Moses, which is impossible to obey, mainly because there's one in the 630 that says, if you break one of them, you're guilty of them all. So Jesus, being as a God, came along, obeyed of it, and said, okay, Jehovah, I've played your silly game. Since Adam sinned and everybody became a sinner under Adam, we'll play your silly game. I became righteous, and everybody is going to be righteous under me. So Jesus turned the tide. He brought everybody that was unrighteous righteous. So by the way, while I'm on the subject, if you're hearing my voice, or if you're not hearing my voice, you are as righteous and holy and without blame as Jesus Christ himself, not because of anything you've done or anything that you haven't done, but because of what he did. he did it for us so that we didn't have to. So as one man was brought down, one man brought everybody up. So we are righteous because of Jesus. Now, all we have to do, as far as the Bible and religion and all of the laws and rules and regulations that the Bible dictates, if you've never read the Bible, some people have never read the Bible and they've never gone to church. Well, guess what? They're a hell of a lot better off than we are, because there's a heck of a lot in there that we have to unlearn. All of the laws, rules, and regulations was brought back by the Council of Nicaea. You don't have to believe. You don't have to go to church and confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. You don't have to believe, repent, be baptized, keep yourself holy, pay your tithes, and all of that, because Jesus did it for him. The scribes and the Pharisees, Constantine and all those guys brought it back in, and we've been under the gun for the last 2,000 years, or since 325. So count it a blessing if you're not religious, if you haven't gone to church. Don't be condemning yourself because, well, I haven't gone to church enough, I haven't prayed enough, I haven't tithed enough, I've had all these bad thoughts. So don't confuse sin with iniquity. Jesus nailed sin to the cross, but he didn't do away with iniquity. Remember, he said, all you workers of iniquity, depart from me, you never know. He's helped these guys, these iniquity guys, to teach us all about it before he comes. But anyway, I don't want to be rambling and ranting on. I hope that answered. Did that answer a question?
Fascinating. Absolutely. And I love that, you talk about Jesus and the iniquity side of it. And Darren, do you want to add to that, please?
Yeah, well, the iniquity is the counter narrative to equity, right? That's the same root word. When we partake of sin, we are experiencing the iniquity side of things. When we resolve or we clean that sin, now we get to experience the equity side. And that's essentially going to be the milk and the honey and all the promises that were bestowed onto us for obedience to the one true master, not the one that we elect every year in the fall to represent our best interests. There's a key fundamental difference here between how the hierarchy has been structured. So yeah, the iniquity is a very, very crucial concept, Bill, and I'm glad you're shedding some incredible light on it for us. So yeah, please continue.
Perfect. Okay, good stuff. So I want to just share my screen again, because this is where we're going to get into the part where Bill's going to be able to shed a lot of light. As far as the Pleiadians are concerned, we've had a lot of interest around this. People wondering who they are. Again, when I talked about that, we all have Pleiadian energy and DNA within us. This is about us awakening right now, and that dormant DNA becoming a lot more aware. And that's why we want to talk about this, because again, I was raised in a very highly religious background, read the Bible 3 times over, and I never knew the Pleiades was even in the Bible. I found that fascinating.
Same here.
Right? So, that's why I wanted to share just a couple scriptures. And if you actually go in and you Google how many times is Pleiades in the Bible, you'll be fascinated. Again, I had to just kind of keep centered here, but here's a few of them. Job 38 and 31. Bill, I believe you probably even know that one by heart, where it says, canst thou bind the sweet influence of Pleiades, or lose the bands of Orion? In Job 9, verse 9, it says, which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades in the chambers of the south. There's the Arcturus, the Arcturians. It's just absolutely fascinating to see that these beings who have been in contact with us are actually in the Bible. This would have been very taboo for my religion and my religious background that I came from. So Bill, do you want to shed some light on that?
Oh, absolutely. As far as Jesus being out in space and on a planet, that it sounds kind of woo-woo. And but they asked Jesus one time, Master, how do we pray? What's the best way? He says, Our Father who art in heaven. Oh, heaven? The Father's in heaven? Well, most Christians, fundamentalist Christians, will tell you Jesus, heaven. That means it's what is the Trinity? It's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Well, yeah, sort of. But try to wrap your brain around that one, Father, Son, and Holy. But he said, "Our Father who art in heaven." Now, Psalms 119 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth His handiwork." The heavens, like the heavens. Jesus and the Father is in the heavenlies. It says, let's see, I don't like to quote scripture verses because it kind of, everybody that is spouting Bible verses all the time, it just mostly tries to let you know how religious they are. So I'm forced to quote a Bible verse every once in a while. Sometimes I'll give you the chapter and verse, like Psalms 119. That's really unimportant. The heavens declare the glory of God. All of those planets out there declare the glory of God. And the firmament is the planets and the stars. The firmament shows His handiwork. And in Romans 1:20, listen to this. Now we are the sons of God and daughters of God. It doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when He appears, we will be like Him. Oops, that's another word. Let's see, which one did I? The heavens. I'm gotten another verse mixed up there, which is a good one to know. But anyway, the one, they just don't come to mind right now. But anyway, Jesus is in the heavenlies, and the Father. That's when it struck a bell to me. I didn't realize until I watched this Hammurabi Code and about this planet that sends messages to planet Earth. Well, the other one that took me to the Bible there and said, look, Jesus never talked about God. He always said the Father. So yes, you just pray. Whoa, by the way, we talk about blasphemy. I talked about blasphemy on that podcast. I'm going to tell you a blasphemy. We're not supposed to pray. Does that sound like blasphemy? Well, Jesus told me He doesn't like prayer. It's too religious. He doesn't want you to pray with Him. He wants you to talk to Him. I'll give you an example. I don't pray. I haven't prayed in a long time. I just talk to Him. I'm having a conversation with Jesus like daily, sometimes moment by moment. And for instance, if I'm having a good conversation with my brother. I mean, he's just really laying it on me, telling me some things that I don't know. And all of a sudden I say, oh, wait a minute, Jesus, hold that thought. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. And I got to go pray, and I'll be right back. Now, really, have you ever heard of anything as stupid as that? I mean, He doesn't want us to pray to Him. He said he used the word one time. He said, there'll come a day that you won't ask of me, you'll ask directly of the Father. So the planet, we can get our information from Jesus, but He says something, you're going to ask the Father directly. So that's that planet. Now, ask. Now, I'm going to caution you, don't go trying to crash down any doors. It says knock, and the door will be open to you. Knock, and I will come in. So don't go trying to crash down any doors. Just knock, and it'll open for you. Ask, and you will receive. So be easy about, back in the day, I was involved, if you probably heard of Edgar Casey. I was a disciple of Edgar Casey back in the 50s and around. And boy, I learned about this spirit business. And I started crashing doors down. And boy, I got what I wished for. I got all tangled up in some bad dudes. And I just barely got out without my life. So it's sure we have to hear from the spirit, but don't go seeking spirits. Don't go, just be careful. There is no danger if you just ask and wait for it to receive. The student never tells the teacher what he needs to learn. And the student never tells the teacher what he needs to learn when he needs to do it. So since Jesus is the master and we're the student, just wait for him to tell you what you need when you need it.
Beautiful. And you know, that nicely takes us into the next segment, because a lot of people are curious as far as how the Pleiadians contacted you initially, Bill. So can you please explain how that first happened for you, what that felt like, and what that looked like, please?
Well, I told the things that's important here is synchronicity. I was contacted by synchronicity. It sounds really woo-woo, but I did my own business. I was just, all of a sudden started seeing numbers, reoccurring numbers. I'd go up to a red light. The car in front of me would be 333. And I'd go to another red light, and all of a sudden I'd come behind this car again. I look at the license plate, and it was 333. I'm thinking, what the hell, boy, talk about coincidence. And I thought, oh, well, that's just fun. So I drove around town for about 10 minutes, I guess, until I got bored with it. I was trying to find the license plate with 3 numbers on it. Couldn't do it. I finally got bored and forgot about it. And what happened? I pull up with them to another red light. The car in front of me was 333. I couldn't find one of the damn things, but when I forgot about it, it just appeared. Well, anyway, this kept going on for days and weeks. I was bombarded with these numbers. And finally, I said, boy, you know, this has gone so far past chance. There's got to be an intelligence behind this. And I finally just got tired of it. I says, look, if there's an intelligence behind this, who are you? What are you? Where are you? And I remember the spot. It was, well, you wouldn't know where it was, but I remember the very spot. I was in my pickup driving down the street. When I said, who are you? As plain as day, I heard, oh, we're the Pleiadians. Now, I didn't hear an audible voice. It just came to my mind, we're the Pleiadians. Now, the reason it's hard to hear from the Pleiadians or any spirit that's talking to you is that they have to use the same pipe. My thoughts come through the same pipes they use. You have to learn. It's called, you've ever heard of that, hear that small, still voice? It's different. When they speak to you, it comes through as your thoughts, but it's just a little different. It takes practice. You have to learn the difference between what your thought is and what their thought is. And it's so subtle. That's the reason it's difficult. It's so easy that it's hard. Even a child can do it. So you don't have to, meditation is good. What meditation is for is to get rid of all the noise and all the garbage so you can settle down and hear. There's so much, things going on around us. So meditation is important, but when you zone in, I was a trucker for like 100 years. It's pretty difficult to drive through Chicago at rush hour. I mean, you got 60 lanes going that way and 60. it's a nightmare to drive a tractor trailer through Chicago. But you know, I drove a tractor trailer. I could drive a tractor trailer through Chicago and still be zoned in. You can be washing the dishes. You can be driving your truck. You could be piping. You could, whatever you're doing, you can still hear. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to sit cross-legged on the side of a mountain or stare at a candle. You can hear. It's just a matter of just like hearing your thoughts. Now, don't be trying to hear some kind of a big spiritual revelation. That can happen. They can give you a mighty revelation, but the spirit, the Pleiadians or whoever, can tell you something just as simple as, what time is it? Look at your watch. And that has happened to me. I mean, they told me something as simple as look at my watch. Maybe it's a recurring number, but don't wait for some big high revelation. They're gonna baby steps. Anyway, am I getting off track?
No, that was fantastic. So when they first contacted you, they said that they were the Pleiadians. So did you speak out loud to them? How did you communicate with them moving forward?
No, there is no outside, no audible voice. I just said, you know, how many years have you prayed to Jesus? You know, is mental telepathy difficult? No. Anybody that's prayed to Jesus, how many times have you heard somebody say, especially a preacher or somebody, you know, the Lord told me this and the Lord told me that. I asked the Lord this and he said that. That's mental telepathy. We've been doing it for years, calling it prayer. I just don't call it prayer anymore. When you ask a question, just picture this planet Elohim. Just in your mind, picture it as a big ball of answers. It's a big ball of answers floating out there. The only thing you got to do to unlock an answer is to ask a question. Now, when you're ready to get the answer, when you become to a certain level where you're able to answer the question, the answer is there. Now, for instance, I can't ask a question like, what's E equals MC squared? I'm not there. I don't know anything about that. So I can't possibly ask a question like that, decide and expect an answer. But in my day-to-day life, where I am spiritually, if I have a question, I ask. You just ask it. And boy, are they ever ready to answer, because that's what the Father is for. You know, Jesus said, we're going to send you back the Spirit of truth that's going to teach you all things. Everything you want to know is going to come from that Spirit of truth. Any outside source, you better be wary of it. I mean, we know all of the stuff that's coming in from the outside. That spirit is inside. It says that we're supposed to worship in a place made without, in a temple. We're supposed to worship in a temple made without hands. Here's a good exercise for you to get that through your head. Take your two fingers like this and put on each side of your face, about even with your eyes. That is your temple. Did you ever hear it called a temple? Not by accident. This is your temple. This is where you get your information. This is where you're supposed to worship, but not worship unless you want to worship yourself. So this is the temple of the living God, as he's talking about, in a place made without hands. So any outside source, any outside force, I'd be careful. Your information is going to come from inside. Now, people can help each other. We can help each other get the right information. We can all work together. But it's you ever hear you got to walk that lonesome road. Walk that lonesome road. You got to work it by yourself. But we can walk it alone, but we can walk it together, because we're all in this together.
And I thought that was interesting too, Bill, how you talked about if we have been disillusioned that, you know, that the Father is a planet, imagine the impact that we can have as a collective when we are all sending our intentions, our messages, our prayers to a specific point. When we're setting intentions that this goes to the Father, that this goes to Elohim for us to get answers, it's not just going, okay, universe, and it having to go out to everything.
Yeah, to deliver a message, you kind of need to know where you're sending it. Otherwise, it gets lost in the mail.
Which means there's a quicker response on the way back. We get a response quicker when we know where we're sending the message. I think that's huge. And Bill, you talked about this on your interview as well. And, without saying certain words, there's, people putting things into their bodies right now that are it is specifically designed, loved ones, to alter your antenna. There have been loved ones that have reported that after they had this put into their body, they felt like they had no sense of God anymore. They couldn't connect anymore. And you talked about that signal. Can you talk a little bit and shed a little bit more light on that, please?
Well, as I brought out about, if that there is a planet that sends messages, I gave an example of that planet being a transmitter. A transmitter needs a receiver. So if that planet is a transmitter and we are the receiver, that receiver, they invented us with a built-in receiver. It's called a DNA. Now that the big V that they give us, the main purpose I get is that they're trying to change our DNA, that antenna that we receive our messages from. Now that V, if it changes our DNA, that means they're screwing up our antenna. I mentioned that scientists recently, I just learned within the last few months that our antenna is wired, or our DNA is wired just like an antenna. Well, I'm thinking that's that antenna that we pick up the messages from the Father. Now, the reptilians, those bastards have had their foot on our neck for 6,000 years. They know that. They don't want us to hear, because if we get the right message, they're toast. So this is the final battle. The reason I've gone 80 years without finding out this information, I couldn't have found it. It was impossible for me to find it out, or for anybody else for that matter. There's 7 seals on that Bible, the 7 seals of understanding. Now, I don't know how, when each seal has been broken, but the 7th seal has been broken. That means the 7th seal of understanding has been broken. So we're going to start getting information that we've never heard before, because it's been hidden from the ages. Each generation, or each dispensation, or each century, whatever, I don't know how often the bands of bands of information that's supposed to be broken. But I'm thinking that, boy, they have been, maybe it had something to do with the end of the Mayan calendar. Everybody was telling you, the end of the Mayan calendar, the world is going to end. Well, they were right. The world did end. That old world, the world that we were in, was done away with, brought us into a new age, a new world. Like back when I was a kid, I'm so ancient that I was back in the horse and buggy days. I live in a town in Texas that we hooked up the buckboard and we bounced a town with a horse. That was a different world. I was in a different world. You people, the kids being born today, they can't relate to that. That was a different world. Well, we're in a different world. The new world, the Pisces, the age of Aquarius. We've come into the age of Aquarius. Now, I'm not an astronomer or an astrologer, but that's another thing that's very important. I was taught all my life that, you better stay away from that astrologer. That's the Satan. which is a crock of camel dung. There's a lot to all of that. But did I answer your question? I'm getting off track of things.
I love listening to your answers. They just unfold into the next one. It's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Bill. And when we talk about this DNA coming online, part of the link that we have here are certain Pleiadian starseed traits to look for to see if it's igniting or turning on within you. So here's some of the traits, and listen to this, loved ones, and see if you're any of these. You feel like the black sheep in your family. There's a common one. You're drawn to the paranormal and the metaphysics. You're highly sensitive, you're intuitive, and you're empathic. You feel like you have a mission on earth to help humanity wake up and contribute to the collective consciousness and ascension of mankind. You challenge social norms. You may have food sensitivities. You have a natural ability to heal. You can be very emotional, often resenting how easily you tear up, but at the same time, people enjoy your presence. And the main reason for that is because you give your energy to others easily, which means people can feed off of you. You may be born into families that are suffering intergenerational trauma, abuse, and addiction. And your job is to help clear the karmic cycle of the family. So if any of those resonate with you, just feel them. And again, there's a reason why you're drawn to this whole subject. When you heard the Pleiadian, notice what happens to your body. And, when we were actually doing some research for this, I found it fascinating that, Kim messaged me right away. She's like, you're not going to believe this. She said, guess how far Pleiades is from the Earth? So all of our loved ones, put in some numbers. How many light years? Let's just, if you want to talk synchronicity, let's put in some numbers into the chat as far as how far you feel in light years the Pleiades is from Earth, please. We've got a 144, we got a 333, we got a 111. Keep going. We've got more people on here.
Getting close.
Yeah, that's right. Bill knows. We got a 222.
Oh, come on, guys. You're getting all around it.
The Pleiades are 222 light years, man. We got a chance of getting there. Go a little higher. Okay, you guys ready for this? The Pleiades is 444 light years from Earth. Isn't that fascinating? And, Bill talks to us about the Pleiades being the seven sisters and the sweet Pleiades. So, even the vibration of that is just fascinating. And in this, we've also included the Starseeds Compass, which is their rendition of the...
Oh, can I interrupt you a moment?
Absolutely.
While we're on the Pleiades, if you've never heard of the Pleiades before, there's a lot of indigenous people that claim to have come from the Pleiades. If you want to check the Cherokee myths, they claim that they came from the Pleiades. Now, when I became a shaman and took the 4 directions of the 4 directions of the Inca medicine wheel, I found out that the Incas on top of Mount Machu Picchu, they have a celebration once a year that celebrates the return of the Pleiadians, if you can imagine. And the Japanese, they claim to have come from the Pleiades. The next time you're driving around in your car and you come up behind a Subaru car, that little emblem on the car with the 7 stars on it, that is the Pleiades. The manufacturer of the Pleiades car, they claim to have come from the Pleiades. So it's all around us. It's been hidden in plain sight. But there's certain people that don't want us to know about the Pleiades. They don't want us to know about aliens. The government, they will refuse disclosure. Everybody's talking about UFOs, but the government will say they will not admit that there's spaceships. You know why? Those rotten reptilians, they're freaking aliens. They don't want us to know that the other aliens are our good guys. They don't want us to know about aliens because Jesus, if you watch that Hammurabi Code, I was blown away. They talk about aliens and crafts up above all through that freaking documentary. Hammurabi back in the early Babylonian king, they saw spaceships. Guess what? I just found out something they told me just yesterday. They say, you remember when Jesus, when he, after the cross, he came and he walked with them for what, 30 or 40 days? Well, when he ascended from Mount of Olives, this is the scene when Jesus ascended. He was on the Mount of Olives. Well, everybody was looking up when Jesus ascended, and there was a couple of dudes there. It must have been one of the other guys from Elohim. They said, what are you looking up there for? Don't you know he's going to return the way he came before? Well, and it says in the Bible, there was a cloud there. Those freaking reptilians, they didn't want us to put, the Constantine and his cohorts, low life balls, they didn't want to put spaceships in there. They just put a cloud. But I'll just bet you, when Jesus ascended from the Mount of Olives, I think what they were looking at is a spaceship going up there. Huh. And got off track again, but great look here.
No, I don't think he did there. I mean, fascinating. I mean, the clouds, I mean, multi-layer, I do believe, yes, they very well could be aliens. At the same time, the cloud can also represent,
well, as Kim just posted there, yeah, when we choose incorrectly to serve a second master when we should never have done it, the result is a cloud on our good name. So yep. the clouds seem to have a repetitive nature here that, we gotta do something with that. It's good that we're getting geoengineering under control so that we can remove some of these clouds.
Oh, that's just fascinating, Bill. Thank you so much. And when you're saying that new information is coming in and they're calling it clouds, imagine that one word being changed in the Bible from cloud, from alien spaceships to clouds. Very different. Very different meaning.
Play on the words. It's been they've twisted everything around. It's just kept us from understanding. Play on the words. I did a word study once. It says that when Jesus set you free, you are free indeed. Well, I did a word study on that word indeed. What is one of those books where you replace words from like Soroyas or something like that? Anyway, I wound up with 24 words you can replace with the word indeed. If Jesus sets you free, you are free indeed. In other words, absolutely, for a surety, without question. We are so free that we don't even have to question it. And they've blocked all of our understanding, thinking that we've got to jump through all of these hoops. All of these, back in the Hammurabi, in the Hammurabi days, they had, the reason they came up with these rules and regulations is because people started, building cities. They started living together. Well, when a bunch of people live together, you got to have some rules or it's just chaos. Well, I'm sure Hammurabi, he said, look, the court systems are just overcrowded with you guys sleeping with another guy's wife. We're going to have to put a stop to this. Any man found sleeping with another guy's wife, we're just going to tie you together and throw you in the lake. I'm sure that stopped a lot of it. But all of the 10 commandments and all the commandments that Jehovah gave to Moses, they were taken from the Samaritan text. They were taken from those laws of Hammurabi. they were always just meant to be, they had no moral obligation. It was just a set of rules for people to live together without killing each other. You didn't have to go to hell. Now, if you did, sleep with another guy's wife, you got tied together and thrown in the river, but you didn't go to hell. You didn't spend the rest of eternity roasting in a lake of fire 7 times hotter than a campfire. But this freaking Jehovah came along and said, hey, we can cash in on this. Let's tell them that the God that's religion, you got to obey all of these rules, make them into some things that let's call them sin. And if you break one of them, you're going to go to hell. And they said, well, Hammurabi was kind of conservative. He come up with like 260 something rules and laws. Old Jehovah said, that's not enough. When he called Moses up on the Mount Sinai, he said, look, I'm giving you 10 commandments, but there's 630 other laws that you've got to, let's get these guys under the gun where they can never, ever hope. They made it impossible for a human to obey all of these laws, 630 of them. You want to Google them, you can Google them on, find out. If you read all of the laws that Moses got handed, it's going to, you might as well get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, because you're going to be there for a while reading all of these laws, which is, it's laughable. That's why Jesus went to the cross, to do away with all of these freaking things so we wouldn't be obligated. If you have, if you're set free, if you have one obligation, if there's one obligation you have, you're not free. Paul went into talking about law. A lot of people don't know this, how Paul's name is demonized. Well, this is kind of off track, but it's important. Saul, not Paul, he was Saul at the time. Now, why didn't Jesus take one of the apostles, maybe Barnabas or one of the apostles, and take him into the desert? No, he knocked Saul off his camel and said, look, the reason Jesus picked Saul is that who knew the law better than anybody else in the land? Paul admits, I was the chiefest of sinners. I was a law of the lawyers. I was a Hebrew of the Hebrews. Saul knew the law better than anybody else in town. That's why Jesus, he was going and killing Christians. With gusto. So Jesus knocked Paul off his camel and said, look, you're killing my people. So can you imagine Saul killing all of these guys? And he was blinded. He had to be led into these guys that he'd been killing. Can you imagine the fear that he experienced? But he knew they were going to pull him limb for limb. But no, Ananias prayed for him and the scales fell off his eyes. Well, it says that he immediately entered the backside of the desert, into the Arabian desert. You know where Moses got the law? In the Arabian desert. Where did Jesus bring Paul, the champion of all law? He took him into the backside of the desert, the same place Moses was. Guess what? Jesus gave Saul the new covenant, which means Paul is the new Moses. He got the new covenant. Jesus said, when I become your high priest, I'm going to make a whole new covenant with you. I'm going to, it's going to be a whole new covenant, not like the covenant I made with Egypt, or not like the covenant I made with Israel when I brought them out of Egypt. Moses parted the Red Sea and everything. He says, the covenant I make you is not going to be like that. It's going to be completely different. So Jesus took Saul into the desert. It took him 2 years to get the law out of Moses, or out of Paul. 2 years he spent in the desert. Jesus was teaching him, look, it's not law. I nailed the law and sin to the cross, get it through your thick head. So what is the first thing Paul, now Saul, now Paul, the play on word, Paul means humble. Paul came out of the desert humble. And what's the first thing Paul started barking when he came out of the desert? You are no longer under the law of sin and death. Well, what is the law of sin and death? Well, simply put, the law of sin and death is if you sin, you die. We're no longer under that. That was nailed to the cross. Those scummy, the Council of Nicaea, they put it back in the Bible. That's why they invented the freaking, well, there's truth in there. But that's why Paul came out preaching grace and peace, grace and peace. All of the books you see Paul write, he starts them with peace be with you, grace be with you. At the end of the chapter, he closes them with peace be with you, grace be with you. He also said, if you mix law and grace, grace is no more grace, law is no more law. You've got hash. That's why there's 45,000 different denominations of the Christian faith. 45 different denominations. And you know what they all have in common? They're all different. Now, there's only one denomination to go to that's the right one, and that's the one you attend.
Well said. Okay, wow. You haven't told me the Saul Paul story yet there, my friend. So why was his name changed then?
We all have to change our names.
Well, Saul, apparently I didn't look, I looked up to what Paul means. Paul means humble. I think Saul must have been some kind of arrogant and full of law and lawyer. You know, it must have been.
He was reborn. Oh.
It must have been opposite of humble. Anyway, these name changes. You know, Sarah was named Sarai, and there's a big play on names and name changes in the Bible, and then it's interesting, something to pay attention to.
And it was interesting that usually the name changes happened after something profound or a shift happened. So
have you ever heard anybody say that Paul is the new Moses? I just got that information. I've never heard that all my life. I didn't realize Paul was given the new covenant. Of course, there are certain people that doesn't want us to know that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's a connection here with the old ways, the old garment, the old cloak, the dirtiness of sin is always attached to a name. Our name that was attached to us born into sin. So there's a key correlation here between resurrection and taking on a new good name. We can only get to the Father through a guy with a clean name. You notice that he didn't have the surname attached to it. There's interesting things going on here. Again, I think it's in, I'll have to check the verse, but again, with the birth of Jesus Christ was made on the wise. When you have a birth event and you have something wise happening, that's the lack of registration, right? There's a key correlation between being not made a public spectacle, which is why Joseph took Mary away privately. There's things attached to the name that need to be addressed. And that's part of our direction currently nowadays, in these days, is to clean up the mess, the sin that's attached to a bad name, a dirty name that we have overlooked our whole lives. We didn't understand the significance of it, but we're starting to now.
And no different than Saul, who went into the desert, and after 2 years, after being reformed and cleaned, changed his name.
And this is where, when you are just coming into this awareness of what we're talking about, if you are new to the show, you have a better chance because you're not so programmed with years and years and years of inundated oppression. Again, if it took a gentleman as wise as Saul 2 years to undo the programming, again, this is where when you're highly educated in today's system, it takes longer to dispose of that and get yourself clean than someone who has no idea, or that isn't very educated. They have a lot less garbage to take out, is what we're trying to say. So yeah, again, this is just to encourage those newcomers to this, that hey, just because you're new, you're actually in a better, safer place than you think.
Excellent. Fascinating. Thank you, Bill. Oh my goodness, you can just see how my just spiritual crush I have on this man, because I listened to him just like this one, and I just I could listen to them forever. Oh, fascinating. Thank you so much. Now, I do want to go into a little bit more about the Hammurabi Code, because, you know, you did introduce this to myself, Bill, and I want to share this with our loved ones as well, so you can understand the importance of this. The Hammurabi Code was actually carved into a massive finger-shaped black stone pillar, and it was actually rediscovered in 1901. And this code is a Babylonian legal text that was composed from 1755 to 1750 BC. It's the longest, best organized, and best preserved legal text from the ancient Near East. There is over 282 case laws, including economic provisions for prices, tariff, trade, and commercial regulations, family law, marriage and divorce, as well as provisions dealing with criminal law, such as assault and theft, civil law, such as slavery and debt. And the Hammurabi Code is the most complete record of ancient law in the existence, and was established to set standards relating to commercial interactions and set fine and punishments to meet the requirements of justice. This includes the law of retribution, sometimes best known as an eye for an eye. Now, the Code of Hammurabi includes many harsh punishments, sometimes demanding the removal of the guilty party's tongue, hand, breast, eye, or ear. But the code also is one of the earliest examples of an accused person being considered innocent until proven guilty. So here's some examples, loved ones, of its justice or equity. Rule number 48, if anyone owe a debt for a loan in a storm, prostrates.
Or you might as well say castrates there. If the storm removes the grain.
Okay. If the storm removes the grain, or the harvest fail, or the grain does not grow for lack of water in that year, he need not give his creditor any grain. He washes his debt tablet in water and pays no rent for this year. So a farmer does not have the ability to be able to provide for himself. His crop is wiped out. He does not owe anyone anything. Very just. If a man strike a freeborn woman so that she loses her unborn child, he shall pay 10 shekel for her loss. So here is a picture of the Hammurabi Code, if you can see that, loved ones. Okay, so here's the finger-like monument. You can see all the engravings and the carvings on there. Here's another law, 196. If a man damages the eye of another man, then the culprit shall have his eye destroyed. And if a man breaks another man's bone, the bone of the culprit shall be broken. Now, we at Dïevergents, we really do appreciate the balance that the Hammurabi Code does bring in a lot of respects, as far as evening karma. That's what I believe the Hammurabi did a lot of, is the evening of karma, so you didn't have to pay for it in another lifetime, or didn't have to circle back around. Now, Bill, is there anything else you'd like to bring to our loved ones' attention as far as the Hammurabi Code and some messages that you got, please?
Well, while you're on the laws, to compare it to religion, all of those laws, like I say, all the laws in the Bible came directly from the Samaritan tablets and the Hammurabi Code. I'd like to draw your attention to not one of those laws, if you broke them, that you would go to hell. There was no lake of fire. there was no hell. It wasn't a sin. It was just simply common sense. You know, I guess back then they must have been a kind of a primitive, rough bunch, and so it was probably a bunch of tough guys, and so they had to have some pretty strict rules. I mean, you poke somebody's eye out, you get yours poked out. You break somebody's arm, you get your arm broken. It's just common sense. It sounds pretty barbaric, but hey, let's have some little peace and tranquility around here. Not everybody damaging it. It was just a matter of, you know, if guilty and proven or innocent until proven. I don't know what, you know, like you said, but these laws had nothing whatsoever to do with sin or going to hell. It was just simply like you say, it was commerce and common sense to live together. You know, if you take a high-rise apartment and there's 12 units in the apartment building, you got to have people behaving themselves, and you know everybody's happy. But if you got all kinds of hanky-panky going on, you're going to have problems. That's what those laws were for. It never was something to make you go to hell if you broke them.
Yeah, they're there to help guide us. Essentially, is what's going on. When you are feeling a moment of weakness and you really feel like stealing a loaf of bread, maybe because you're not hungry, but maybe it's just because you want a loaf of bread. Well,
spite.
For for these reasons where now we would look at that as bad judgment. If you don't need the loaf of bread, why are you taking it? Is it just greed? Is it lust? Is it gluttony? It's going to be one of these profound emotions that are governing your spirit at the moment. So this is where the laws are trying to tell us by, in the background, they're whispering in our ear, hey, don't steal the bread because you might lose your eye. They're going to be here to guide us in a manner where in our moment of weakness, you might need it. Because if you weren't weak, you're not going to be stealing a loaf of bread. You're going to go make your own loaf of bread. So again,
whereas if you steal a loaf of bread because your family is starving, it would be judged differently.
Yeah. So again, the fairness and the equity, it's all hiding in these laws, in these programs. It's just a matter of distinguishing it and actually applying the knowledge so that we can actually live better lives every day. Because for some reason we've lost the ability to do this, right? Why do it's kind of interesting how humankind is so susceptible to influence, yet we can't be influenced for greatness and maintain it. We always seem to fall and fall victim to whispers from within the garden hedges, or things of this nature. So yes, we're always so susceptible to deception and deceit. So these laws are here to just really help guide us.
It wasn't all. It wasn't really all about blood and guts back then. It sounded pretty barbaric, but they also made a provision if you offended someone. If they forgave you, you could settle things without poking an eye in your eye. Well, I don't know about an eye, but there was a provision there that if you offended someone, there was room for forgiveness and you could go on and maybe have a second chance.
So I know while we're talking about the Hammurabi Code, Bill, real quick, I know you were mentioning with the remote viewing there that this plays off of the gentlemen in the past that have really done some unscrupulous work to King James Bible and others. The Hammurabi Code you were mentioning is subject to only half of the story or half of the truth, or let's call it the powers that were still using that code, that Hammurabi Code, and they were only providing us with some or maybe a version that they really wanted us to have, and that there's still components or pieces that are maybe left open to interpretation or left open to perhaps a different perspective or some new light being shed on that situation. But to specifically ask the question, there are still elements or key parts that are missing. And I greatly believe that, through these challenges and through these teachings and speaking with spirit, we are being downloaded with the other half, or the part that was confusing to us in those days. This enlightenment, this ascension process, we're being downloaded with the upgraded version of the Hammurabi Code as we live our lives daily. This is where we start to take on more of an equitable based lifestyle, loving our neighbors rather than trying to, again, as I always say, take their lawnmower. Let's show up at your neighbors with our lawnmower and help him cut his grass versus this traditional commercial world where we're always trained or we're taught to be competitive with our neighbor, grow your crops, but don't share with your neighbor. So again, we seem to have lost this ability, this innate ability to love each other. And again, I think we can blame and attribute a lot of it to this commercial system. But yeah, I think, we are definitely getting the other half of the code, the upgraded version, the living version without so much commerce attached to it. And I think this is, as we move forward, this is going to be very, very directional for us in achieving this peaceful state of mind. We don't quite need the commercial system as it was if we start conducting ourselves and governing ourselves in a more loving manner. We're going to open up some space here for something new.
What you have to keep in mind too, that was 6,000 years ago. We're a heck of a lot different, a different society today than they were then. But they had commerce back then, and we have commerce back or now. So what happened to the Admiralty law? Everybody was shipping their goods around back when they were shipping, and so they've just twisted that around and started using it against us instead of for us. It's okay to ship something with a ship, but you don't have to liken it to people. Bring people under the yoke of calling us chattels, calling us commercial goods to be shipped around. They just took a good thing and polluted it.
Absolutely. And thank you for that so much, shedding light on, sides that are a little gray, you might say. And, for that very purpose, what I've done here within this link is I've attached, the Hammurabi codes of law. So you can actually go and break down. So I'll just kind of take you through this so you can actually see. So this is the whole Hammurabi code. So all of the codes, all here, you can go through and you can read all 282 if you wish. And then what you can actually do is go to see the transliteration. So this is actually what it looks like. So this is actually what the translation looks like, and then you can actually go and it'll do the translation so that you know exactly what the law is. So some great references there for some aftercare learning. Now let's go into this next portion that I'm excited about, which is the remote viewing. Now remote viewing is and the reason I was actually talking to Darren about this, because when we go into a meditative state and we want to go and see something, or we want to go somewhere, that is a form of remote viewing. But this form of remote viewing is a little bit more technical. Now, let's explain, first of all, the kind of remote viewing that we are talking about. Now, this is a practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target using subjective means, in particular, extrasensory perception or sensing with the mind. Now, typically, a remote viewer is expected to give information about an object, event, person, or location that is hidden from physical view and separated by distance and or time. Now, Bill, you gave an example of this, and, the Farsight Institute, which I've attached here, I'm so excited to share this with you because Bill shared this with me many years ago. Just look at the pictures. That doesn't take you down some rabbit holes. I don't know what will, but this guy is very into what he does. But what he does is he gives his students, who are very gifted remote viewers, numbers. They're usually a number. And they just look at that number and they focus on that, which is a channel. That's all you need to know, loved ones. It's no different than I want to go and want to get some information around this. That's a channel. A number is a channel as well. And so when these remote viewers get this number, all they do is they tune into this and then they start getting information. And we're going to start expanding this a little bit for you as well, so you can learn how to do this. But I wanted to talk about the term remote viewing was actually coined in 1970. And the reason for this is they were trying to distinguish the difference between a remote viewer and someone who's clairvoyant. And, you know, same shit, different pile. Let's be honest. That's exactly what this is. And I can see, you know, when I was doing my research, if you go on YouTube, they have like this robot, this new thing, like whenever you want to know about a word, and she comes on and she just was like, you know, shedding light on the fact that it was quite fascinating. But then this robot's like, but it's not, you know, you can't lean on this. It has its holes. She just started shredding it apart and saying how the government abandoned it and all this kind of stuff. No, they didn't. The government never abandoned it. Are you kidding me? They just wanted us to have absolutely no idea just how accurate it is. And they didn't want us exploring this about ourselves. So it's quite phenomenal to kind of see what this entails. And as a result, I'm just going to go on to, I'm going to make sure my, Kim, what was it again that shares the sound, the share?
Just click on your share screen again at the bottom and share sound. So you might need to stop your share screen, and when you go to share it, share sound.
Okay, so one moment, please, loved ones. I want you guys to be able to hear this. Oh, that's why. There we go. Share sound.
By the way, I'm just using my phone. I don't have a full monitor here. How many people we got here?
We have 10 right now.
10, really?
You betcha. Okay, loved ones, here we go. This is about a 5-minute video, but this gentleman is a remote viewer, and you're going to have a really good idea. Oh, now we're at 11. And you're going to have a good idea as far as how it works. Here we go.
Remote viewing is a perceptual technique whereby a person can describe places, events, or people that are perceived mentally but separated from the viewer by distance, shielding, and even time. It's, if you like, it's a trained intuitive ability.
How is remote viewing used today?
I've been tasked to help locate murderers and to unravel clues that may help towards finding who the murderer may be in a particular case. Within businesses, helping with negotiations, investigations, lost property, insurance scams, missing persons. There's quite a long list that I've been involved with all of those.
And does your work involve sitting in a dark room, say in a police station or something, and sort of conjuring up the image of the crime scene?
No, I sit at home with a cup of coffee at a table, usually cleared of objects that might get in the way. And I just focus in on what's called a coordinate, something which is going to help me to find what's called the signal line. And then from then, small images appear, a bit like bits of a jigsaw. And eventually we draw up information from that. Some of it's sensory, some of it is visual, some of it is impressions, emotional impressions, and basically feelings that are around the actual site itself. And eventually we can come up with enough information that will help to solve the problem or tell us what's actually at that particular site.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a murder case or an insurance case where you've sort of conjured something up which has been helpful?
Yeah, there was a case in America where a man was found overboard from his boat in suspicious circumstances. I can't really say a great deal about it. However, there appeared to be no motive for the murder. And I was tasked from America through a contractor out there who's also a remote viewer. And I was able to ascertain from the pieces that I could do through remote viewing that there was a possibility that actually it was an internal affair. Somebody in the family was actually involved in some way or could be involved in some way. This information was sent back and I gave my reasons for this. And I was eventually told that nothing more about what had actually happened with the case apart from someone within the family had actually been arrested for the murder.
How do the American military use remote viewing?
In the military, it was used for about 18 years within the actual Cold War between Russia and the West, if you like, the East and the West. And mainly to sort of locate intelligence, things like silos for missiles, secret sites and things like this. but stuff where no other means could actually be used to get into the site to find out what's there. It was only with the event of the Cold War that we discovered that Russia actually was operating some people who were able to locate information, particularly in the United States. When America found out about it, they thought this actually was quite a good idea. This is a very short view, a very short part of the story, but it sort of brings the basic facts together. And from that, the CIA became involved and funded a military unit, and also some experiments carried out in America by a chap called Hal Puthoff. And he worked in conjunction with a chap called Ingo Swann, who was a very gifted remote viewer who set up the means to train remote viewers at a place called Fort Meade. During a period of 18 to 20 years, there were about 23 remote viewers. And it was eventually disbanded by, basically by the government when the CIA started to reveal information about remote viewing and what they've been up to, in conjunction with Bill Clinton's new disclosure act through Congress, that disclosure of information had to be more freely available to the public.
Do you have any idea of how many remote viewers there are in the world today?
I've no idea in the United States. I have a rough guess that there may be about 30 trained remote viewers in this country, but I could be at least 10 to 20 out. 30 that I know of.
But it's a lot more popular in America than it is here.
It's a lot more popular in America, I think possibly because more people make use of remote viewers in America than they do in this country. That's why most of the work that I do comes from the United States.
So being a remote viewer is sort of a form of being a psychic. And you don't have to be necessarily a gifted person to be able to do it, do you?
I don't think that you have to be necessarily gifted or psychic in the way that it's normally used, but I think that it is a trained intuitive ability. Each of us has the ability to remote view. I mean, for example, mothers know when their children are in trouble often, and sometimes I gave an example earlier that the phone rings and for some reason you know exactly who it is on the other end. How we explain that we don't know, but remote viewing as we know it today is a trained ability to be able to tap into this sort of information when we want it.
Is there a dark side to remote viewing that would ever deter you from doing the job?
There are upsetting places to be. Sometimes you don't know until you get there. Usually I have an idea that if a coordinate comes in for me to do a particular task, and I start to get into it, if I don't like it, I'll come out and just send the information that I actually got. I have no intention of making myself feel bad. You know, life's great and I enjoy it very much, so I just try and keep it as happy as possible. So basically, if I don't like the look of something, I'll come out of it. But there are possible places to be where you actually don't want to be. And as you know from your own experience, you do get feelings about places. As you did with your own tasking. You get a feeling about a place, and if you're right immersed in that and fairly well practiced, you know that's not a place you want to be. You get out as fast as possible. Remote viewing.
You're muted.
Right. So I just wanted to share that with you to give you an idea of what a remote viewer's opinion looks like. And again, he said, you know, he doesn't feel that anyone that does remote viewing doesn't need a psychic ability. I beg to differ with that, because of the same sentence he said, you know, but you use your psychic abilities. So, you know, you need some intuition to be able to do this. You need some motivation. You need to tap into the energy and the channel of it. And if you're wanting to know how to do some remote viewing, I've actually included this page on here where you can actually go through and how to remote view. Some simple practices: set the target, receive the target. Don't second guess. It's a wonderful walkthrough so that you can go through that.
And a lot of that is, again, this is reformatting your operating system. You know, we have been living a life that has been here to desensitize us to these types of intuitive skills, to beat it out of us, if you will, through public programs and initiatives like school. So if we have a clear mind and a heart that is not full of spider webs, deceit, darkness, evil, you're going to be in a position where you're open to messages. Now, depending on what level you want to take these messages to, your focus on a message coming in is going to determine how well you receive the message. If you don't care about the message, if you don't want to hear it, if you're throwing up psychic blocks, you're only impeding your own development. So this is going to be critical. So when we live a life full of, oh, I have to work 9 to 5, I have to pay all my bills, I have to make my car payment, I got to pick the kids up at 3, then I got to go grocery shopping, and then where do you find time to build in the intuitive development? You actually have to take the time, set some aside. You know, we all go to the gym, we all go for our walks, we all like to read, whatever it is, but allow yourself a little bit of space to start developing these things, baby steps, but go for it. If you don't go for it, you're cutting yourself off and you may be missing a lot that life has to offer.
And that actually takes us very nicely into the next portion of this. For those of you who do want to learn how to connect with extraterrestrials, which is also known as spirit, I don't care what you call it, whoever you want to tap into, if they're on the other side or if they're not of this dimension, you know, how you connect, the process is going to be the same.
Can I tell you?
Yes, please.
Can I tell you my first attempt at remote viewing?
I would love to.
It was fun. I heard about, you know, the military using it to find out what's going on behind the enemy lines. So there's an exercise, I think maybe it was Ed Reardon, when they have a course that you can take. I was going to take the course a long time ago, but it was like $350. And I thought, well, maybe someday. But they had a free exercise on there that you could do to see if you could remote view or not. So you had a black screen there with some numbers over it. That was the target. And you're supposed to look at those numbers and letters and see if you could find out what was in that black screen, what the target was. So I got my best pose and I looked at this black screen and I'm saying, okay, I want to see if I can figure out what that target is. So I started concentrating on it. I looked and looked, and all of a sudden I saw this red dot. You know, right in the middle of the screen there was this red dot, and I said, okay, well, there's a red dot in the middle of that screen. And I tried, and I'm concentrating, and I'm trying to zoom in, and I thought I got water. But I wasn't sure. But anyway, this went on for about 5 minutes, and my mind was going in about a dozen different directions. I couldn't collect it down, and I got bored, and I says, oh, listen, I'm just going to find out what's in there. So I clicked on the target, and what it was a sailboat in the middle of a harbor, and it had a red sail on it. Now I saw that. I didn't realize it after. So just in my 5-minute attempt at that remote viewing, if I had kept going another 5 minutes, I could have probably figured, well, no, that's a sailboat in the middle of a harbor. But so that's, the exercise is there if you want to find it and try it.
And this is where the patience comes in. Again, don't sit there with your timer and say, okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to give it to me. No, I mean, we have to be sensitive to this patience. Just because it comes in one format. This is what I was saying again just a moment ago. Changing the formatting of our operating system. When we get that red dot vision, don't just throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to give you, and move on to something else. I mean, again, sometimes it'll be the next day that you get that's what it was, or it's interesting, the timing. So don't sell yourself short because you didn't get it right here, right now. Again, just stay open to these concepts.
And I do have a question actually for you, Bill, as far as a target is concerned. When someone says, okay, and they're giving you a test and they write those numbers out, how do they establish that that's the target? How are those numbers associated? Is it like with that sailboat, for instance, what did you see and how did they line that up?
Well, the reason they have letters and numbers there is that they can't just tell all of them. Well, here's something that they got to keep track of all of them. So they have numbers and letters and say, look, this is your target. the target, the name of this target is XYZ and 1, 2, 3. So that's a target. Now, if they want you to have, I don't know if they have more than one target a day, but say they had 3 targets they wanted you to find. So they have numbers for each one of them. That's how they can go back and refer to which viewing it was. Now, I think it's just a matter of how to keep track of them, but you have to have something to go by. They can't just tell you, well, there's a black screen, see what you come up with.
Point of reference.
It's their intent then. So when they say, okay, this picture has this letter and numbers associated to it, that's what imprints the target. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Now you can get messages. There's 2 different things you can get. You can either get a vision of it, or you can get just the words, the answer. Now, let's see, what was I was going to use an example there, but I forgot.
Using a target?
Using a
Numbers.
target. Well, I had an example, but I forgot what the example was. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Okay, so what I want to do here, just for the sake of time, because I want to make sure we get to the questions for the gentleman here. So I'm going to share my screen again here, and I want to go over a few things like you guys are talking about right now. And I think it's fascinating to be able to talk about how to connect with these beings if this is your will and your intent. So the first one, as far as the top 3 things that you can do to begin or enhance your relationship with these Pleiadians, with these Arcturians, with, the Lemurians, Syrians, whatever it is that you wish to connect with. Because again, it doesn't matter who you're trying to connect with. The intent is what matters. And that's why the first one, in order to connect, you have to stay energetically clean and charged. You have to take care of your temple, as Bill talks about. You can't expect to be making bad choices, feeding yourself poorly, making bad decisions, and then going, and let there be a Pleiadian. It's energetically just does not mesh. So regular meditation to clear, ground, and charge your energy. We talk about this at Dïevergence all the time, filling your cup first. You don't heal, you do not extend your services, you don't do anything till you take that mask and you fill up and you're full. When your cup is full, then you're at a position to be able to share and to heal. And this is going to be key in order to not only tune in to this frequency of the Pleiadians, but to also keep it. So here's the thing. If all of a sudden you're doing your meditation and you're doing your work and you're just raising your vibration and all of a sudden you make a whole bunch of poor, bad decisions and you plummet, again, you're going to have to do the work again to be able to establish the channel, the connection. And Bill, you said it so beautifully as well. Loved ones, understand that the way in which they communicate is the same channel that you hear your own voice. How you know it's them versus you is by how it feels. And that's why we're trying to teach you to remain present, to be grounded, to be centered. So when this feeling happens, when you hear this wisdom, when you hear these words, you know the difference. You know if it's them or if you know if it's you. Remember, to attract anything in life, that we must first make room for it. And then we have to maintain it. And a daily practice of spiritual cleanliness will ensure this. So again, the more that you have, I talk about this all the time, open your crown, flush any and all energy that's not yours out your hands and your feet, feed on the universe. This is the first thing before you do meditation, before you ask anything, before you connect. This is part of you cleaning and making sure that you're operating from an energetic level where you can hear these messages. This is where people get so frustrated. They come home from work, they have everyone's energy attached to them, they have a million things going. You can't expect to sit and go and have and converse with a Pleiadian. I mean, you got to be really on your game if you're able to do that. Most cannot. And that's why there's a process to this. And it first starts with you. if that's your intention to connect with them, you need to know that you need to raise your bar. You need to go to them. They're not coming down to you. This is the biggest misconception that we have been taught. Source does not come up down to us. The whole point of us being in this earth school is for us to ascend, for us to go to them, for us to develop the skills and the wherewithal and the inner knowing so that we can keep ascending and growing ourselves so that we can get to where we need to go, so that we can connect, get the messages we need to keep going. Number 2, set intentions to connect and to develop a relationship. Again, it's like wanting to date somebody or to, you have a crush on somebody, but you don't say anything and you stay quiet. You actually have to put your intentions out there. You have to let them know. You have to initiate the conversation. You got to pick up the phone. It's like, okay, I want to talk to the Pleiadians, but I'm not gonna call them. I was gonna wait for them to call me. That's not how it works. So to connect or attract anything, we must tune into its channel, its frequency. And prayers establish that intent. Intentions are prayers. They are words that we put out to the universe so it knows what we want. And here is a beautiful intention, loved ones, to attract the Pleiades. So open your crown, flush, set your intentions. Sweet Pleiades, please send forth a Pleiadian to connect with me at this time. May I be a channel to accurately, clearly, and easily receive the messages, feelings, and guidance I need. This always being for my best and greatest good. Okay, even when you feel this, it's beautiful. Again, it's no different than when Bill was talking about. If you're sending your prayers for now, loved ones, from now on, send it to Elohim, send it to Father, send it with an intent for it to get to where it's supposed to go so that you get an answer quicker. It's no different when you're setting intentions to connect with the Pleiades. Hey, Pleiades, I want to talk to you. That's what you're doing. You're clean, you are charged. Now the universe goes, now what? They can't impose, they can't infringe on our free will. The only reason that happened to Bill is because he made a prior soul contract with them to be an ambassador for them, as did I, as did Darren. If you have not established that and you want to make a soul contract with them, then attract them, pick up the phone. And thirdly, show up. I always find it fascinating. People go, oh, I just want to have a connection. I want to talk to spirit like you do. Okay, well, how often do you call them? How often do you talk to them? If I want a relationship with someone, I need to show up for them. I need to put energy into it. One of my favorite sayings and quotes is, feed what you want to grow. Nothing will grow that you don't give attention or energy to, period. So if you want a healthy relationship with them, they need your energy. And the more that you engage and tune into their channel, the stronger and clearer your ability will be to get your messages, to get your inspiration, to get your encouragement and your guidance. And I love what Bill does. Anything that he gets, he always asks for confirmation. So Bill, can you please share that with us, please?
Yes. Don't accept anything from anyone unless you get a confirmation. If you believe what I tell you just because I say it, you not only get what you deserve exactly what you get. How many years have I been going to church and listening to some preacher tell me how to believe, where to believe, who to believe, when to believe? I've always, I had an experience once back in, I lived up in the boonies up the Alaska Highway, 100 miles north of Fort St. John, right in the middle of the wilderness. I was in a group. That's what brought me to Canada. I followed this move. It was called the Sam Fife move. There might be some information left on the internet, but I was in the, we got a vision to leave the States and come to Canada into the wilderness and cut down a bunch of trees and build cabins and be still and know that I am God. Oh, you talk about being religious. I've led the pack. Anyway, I was there. There was a group of us there, and one day everybody went to town. I was left. Yeah, I just stayed behind for some reason. I don't remember. And I'm there. You talk about it in the middle of nowhere. There was just a bunch of moose and wolves around. I was there alone, and I just had a good time with the Spirit. I said, I've been in and out of more denominations like Trevor. And all of a sudden I asked myself, do I believe what I believe because I believe it? Or do I believe it because somebody else told me to believe it? Or do I believe it because somebody else believes it? I said, I just had to come to face with myself and say, well, what do I believe? And all this Spirit just seemed to say to me, well, start from the beginning about the Bible. Start from the beginning. So I started in Genesis, and I was told that, look, the best way now this is my advice, this is what I got. Empty your vessel, empty your brain, get rid of everything that you believe, get rid of everything that you don't believe. As best as you can, clean out that brain of yours and make it as empty as possible. And I said, Jesus, when I read the Bible now, I want you to tell me what verse I should embrace and what verse I should leave out and not believe. Well, that started me on a quest. You wouldn't believe how many times I've said to Jesus, he said, I would say, I come across a verse reading the Bible and I say, should I embrace this or should I leave it? You wouldn't believe how many times he says, leave it. And I said, but I've been taught that all of my life. It's got to be true. And he said, I know you've been taught that all your life, but I didn't teach it to you. So I don't know if it was by accident or something. That put me on a quest, and that's really got me where I am today. The only way you can tell when you read the Bible what's true and what's not true, it's just like Jesus said, you got to ask the Father. It's been taken from and added to. Constantine and those guys got it all screwed up, but they had to keep, I don't know if there's an unwritten law or whether they had to keep some truth in there. They couldn't just have a Bible burning and crucify Jesus, have a Bible burning and never have anything about Christianity. They've used it to their advantage. The two words that has deceived us most through all of humanity, there's two words that's deceived us most. And those two words are Jesus said. If I wanted you to get to believe something and I follow it with Jesus said, well, who the hell is going to argue with that? It ends all discussion. Jesus said it, so it was true. The Jesuits, I heard there's a room, somebody said that somebody overheard the Jesuits saying recently, boy, we got a lot of mileage out of that Jesus fella. All we got to do is say, Jesus said, and then the club, the club of the Jesuits, the club is called the Club of Jesus Christ, if you could believe it. Now, what could be anything wrong with the Club of Jesus Christ? They've even used his name to call their club. The most evil bastards in the whole freaking planet is the Club of Jesus Christ. So they've got a lot of mileage out of Jesus. Now, there's a lot of things he said is true. There's a lot of things in the Bible that is a crock. How do we find out the difference? That's where meditation comes in. That's where asking the Father comes in. You say, should I believe it? Now, if you can meditate alone, but for instance, I'm driving down the street, I'm going to Safeway or Costco or somewhere, and I'm just having a good time with the Lord, and I'm saying, I asked him some questions, and I want an answer, and all of a sudden I'll come up behind a car at a red light, and the license plates are 3 numbers. And I'm saying, is that my answer? the way you find out, you don't have to have a Bible tucked under your arm. You don't have to have a preacher with you. All you have to do is take your phone. You don't even have to, you just type, say that the license plate was 444. When you get a chance, pull over to the side, or when you get to where you're going, you get your phone. All you have to do is type in 444. The meaning comes up. You don't even have to Google it. Just put 444 in your phone and print send or whatever. And the meaning of 44 will come up, and most likely that will be the answer of your question that you just asked. Now, the mathematicians, like Tesla and Einstein and those guys, they told you that the language of the universe is mathematics, is numbers. I can believe that because all through my synchronicity, it all has to do with numbers. So pay attention to numbers, because it is the language of the universe. It's the language of the spirit. That's how I get most of my confirmation, is through synchronicity.
Absolutely. Look for 111 loved ones, look for certain patterns before.
To tell you how crazy this gets, I get, I use filtered water. I go fill my jugs at this reverse osmosis thing. And they have a dispenser there. You put a loonie in and fill your jug. And I'm at this dispenser, and it's after supper, between 8 or 9 o'clock. And this block where the water place is, there was nobody parked on that block. I pulled up to this water place, and I'm the only one in the block. And I'm just, while my jugs are filling up, I'm kind of thinking about this and thinking about that. I have a question. And what happens? There's a pickup, a white pickup, pulls in front of me, my truck that's parked, and he goes down about 3 paces or vehicle paces. And I'm sitting there, and I look at the license plate, and it was 1111. Now, that freaking pickup pulled in there just for me. Can you imagine? You can look, how many hours you got to spend driving through that town trying to find a license plate that says 1111? Well, that pickup was for me. Don't you think somebody up there likes me? I was asking a question. The first pickup that pulled in there was 1111. That's how fantastic it can get.
Absolutely, for sure. And this is part of tuning into the channel. If you're wanting to get messages, if you're wanting to connect with them, and if you're like, okay, Bill talks about numbers, then show me some numbers.
Yeah, don't forget to elevate your state of conscious awareness. Increase your observation skills. Don't just ask for these things, then put a paper bag over your head and go hide in bed for the rest of the day. Go out and look. Go out and be diligent. Be mindful of a message that could be coming at any moment. Be ready for that, because if you're not paying attention, sometimes you miss those license plates with the 1111. It's just staying intuitive, being ready, and showing up. Critical components, absolutely.
Do you realize how what somebody would have to do to make that work? I mean, you come up behind somebody with a license plate, that person, where did he come from? Did he get, all of this, so many things have to come together for this synchronicity to work. I mean, who was that guy driving that truck or that car? Where did he come from? How did he happen to be coming to the same place as you? And the two of you meet, it's just crazy what ability they have to make this synchronicity work. But we're going to find out one day, because that's where we're headed. We're going to be able to do the same thing, only greater things.
And I'm also of a belief system too, that because we have a lot of our ancestral DNA coming online, that if we just learn to tap into it, they want to connect with us. They want to show off. And so, if we challenge them with numbers, if we challenge them with validation, It's amazing how much they rise there. I mean, when I was first coming online, I was like, okay, well, do this. I was asking like for ridiculous stuff. And when it would happen, I was like, oh, it was just like, oh, it just shook you. And notice the response of your body as well. It's really like Kim talks about all the time at the top of her head, when it starts to buzz or tingle. We frequently will get that. That's a sign. How do you just get goosebumps right on the top of your head? Notice how when you listen to certain things, Ravina's one of my queens who's highly responsive to information that we give her. And she just all of a sudden goes, oh, and I can just tell because her body just react. Notice those times when your body just comes out of its own meat suit skin, for the lack of a better word. But that's spirit. That's a frequency trying to tap into your electromagnetic field, because that's all we are, is walking EMFs. And they're touching it to help us realize that we are getting in sync with it.
Well, that's what that top of your head there, that's where the crown chakra is. And if we go open that crown chakra and go to there's 7 chakra, that's the 7th chakra. Now, if we open that and go to the 8th chakra, that's where the Akashic records are. That's where you know everything about everything. So the idea is, going up through the chakra system, the last chakra is the crown. If you're going to tingling over the head, when we reach the point where we can open that crown chakra at will, that's when we're going to know everything about everything.
Absolutely. That brings, go ahead.
You can do it every once in a while. The times I do it, it's very exciting, because it doesn't happen very often, because we just don't have the ability yet. It's just a matter of, when you have you people that have had that are parents, you have a baby, you have a child, and the feeling you get when that baby for the first time actually looks at you and knows that you exist. It's a beautiful feeling. And the time the child gets old enough to ask a question, you realize, hey, how your heart feels. This kid, something that came from you has actually got to the point mature enough where they can actually ask a question. Well, that's what that's what all those guys at the Elohim that had responsible for us being here. When we get to the point where we can ask a question, can you imagine the buttons on their chest popping about, hey, they're learning, they're growing, they're maturing. That's why they want us to ask questions and mature.
And I love that you're saying that. And that's why I've always got the message, where Spirit's always telling me, get them, because they can't interfere. They're not allowed to interact. They're not allowed to influence us without our permission. It's a trespass. And so when we do go, okay, well, if you guys are out there, well then, show me this or show me that, or I want to connect. And literally they will go out and just make miracles happen. They will show up in such grand ways, because again, they're losing a lot of us here on earth. That a lot of the channels are compromised right now. They can only speak and tune to certain ones. So the ones that do tune in, who even remotely, even just as long as you're in the rough channel, they'll respond. You'll get some kind of a feedback, even if it's something that oh, I'm close. And that's what's beautiful, about talking to people such as you, Bill, that have these interactions, so that people can start to explore that in their spirituality and start getting rid of these buffers and these belief systems that we have to go to a priest, that we have to go to a church, we have to have someone in between us to have these conversations. No, the ringing in the ears. Yes, absolutely, Chris. Ringing in the ears is one of the first signs that spirit is tuning you in. And notice what side it's on. Left is the underdeveloped, right is the soul side. That's one thing to take into consideration. And with the more, notice that the pitches of the squeals come in because they're downloads. They're downloads that our bodies are receiving, so that whatever we're about to attract, we have some immunity. We have some familiarity with what's coming at us, so that we can accomplish and overcome it quicker.
Yeah, and both ears would be a complete upgrade instead of just the left or the right. Again, Jody and I both will experience this. I'll get my left and the right going off all the time. And once in a while, yeah, you'll get both ears going. So that's even a more profound statement from source, suggesting you needed a little something on the left and on the right, in front and behind, below,
and you got good stuff coming,
and above, right? Like it's an all-encompassing message, that one.
And the more you're buzzing, the more you're getting those downloads, the more you're in line and in tune. That is complete validation, loved ones. If you are getting any kind of high-pitched squeals in your ear, if you are seeing numbers, you are on the way to enlightenment. You are on the way to ascension. And now it's just about fine-tuning it. Now it's about turning up the volume. Now you're on the channel. Now it's about turning up the volume.
Yeah, and someone is posting here about the constant ringing, the constant downloads. Yeah, I've experienced that myself. Years straight of constant ear ringing. Well, and I'm looking at that thinking, okay, well, there you go. That's us being, our operating systems being upgraded. You got to schedule a time so that your iPhone can do its upgrade. Well, if you're not scheduling the time, does the upgrade happen? Well, if the upgrade is important enough, they'll force it.
And, we hear about ringing. Also look for visuals. Everything when you first start awakening happens in your peripheral. So look for streaks of light. It can be dark. When it first happened to me and I started activating, I saw dark and it kind of scared me. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm activating all these dark spirits. What's going on? But no, that's just your third eye. As it develops, it will become more in tune. If it's dealing with the channel that's this wide, the color is going to be distorted. As it tunes itself, then you're going to get clearer. Then it'll turn to white. It'll sometimes turn to little spots of color. White are angels, in my spiritual opinion. Any colors are archangels. Okay. I don't find angels touch. That's usually spirit. So spirit is the one that will usually touch us. Oh, Bill, you have something to say?
Well, about the third eye, that's where it's at, right here, this third eye. And I've been fortunate, like I say, I told you a while ago that I use filtered water. One of the things they've damaged, the chlorine and fluoride in the water calcifies the pineal gland, and I've been fortunate enough for years. I've been, and the only water I get outside of the house is like Tim Hortons coffee or the restaurant or something like that. But mainly I've watched my diet as, not 100%, as much as I could, and drink water. So my pineal gland is fairly clear, and I've got to where when I close my eyes, it happens mostly, in this sleep wake, when you're dozing off to take a nap or you're waking up from that. It's that sleep stage. And I've got to where I can see so clear that sometimes I have to open my eyes to see if they're closed. It's amazing. And there's a difference. You can see a vision. I just had a vision lately about Kim Kogan, but I can tell you how to see a vision. For instance, your house where you live. Well, picture your house where you live. Picture the front door. You can see the front door in your mind. Well, go down and look at that doorknob. You can see the doorknob in your mind. Well, look at the keyhole. That's the mind's eye. You can see that. You see that all the time in your memory. Well, a vision is like that, only it's so much brighter and so much clearer and technicolor. That's when you know you're not just seeing your house from your memory, you're actually seeing a vision from the third eye. So it's as easy to see a vision as it is. Did you ever see a log out in the middle of a lake, and you swim out there and you try to stand on it? How easy it is to fall off. That's how easy it is to see a vision. It's like falling off. It's so simple, like falling off a log in the river. It's just a matter of allowing it to happen. It'll happen. I mean, we're all going there. So yeah, I'm having fun with this third eye business.
Absolutely. And I will give you a piece of advice as well, loved ones. If you are wanting to connect, if your intention is to go to the next level, you have to be mindful of what you're putting in your body and on your body. And thank you, Bill, for touching on this, because when I first started coming into my spirituality, would have been about 11 years ago. One of the first things, and I had a teacher come up to me and she goes, "Well, you're not using toothpaste though, right?" Of course I'm using toothpaste. What are you talking about? She's like, "Well, the fluoride." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Jody, it's a byproduct of industrial companies. And there was so much of this toxic waste. They didn't know what to do with it. So they negotiated with the government to put it into something that would make us numb and dumb." And what's something that we do to ourselves morning and night with our teeth? What a perfect place to put it. So my advice to you is, if you are wanting to go to the next level, you have to clean yourself. And if you're putting things into your body that are calcifying the receptor that sends the signal, your messages are going to be unclear if you're even able to hear them at all. Clean up your water. Clean up what you put in your mouth for toothpaste. That is where you start. It's a simple recipe. You can do baking soda. You can do coconut oil, add some essential oils on there. That's it. Nice and simple. Stop putting fluoride in your mouth. Stop drinking fluoride. We're not going to get into flour and sugar. And don't get me wrong, Darren and I have flour and sugar. It's just, we have to be more mindful, or learn how to alchemize or to transmute the energy of what we eat. And we'll get into that at a later course. But if you are wanting to do this, a strong message is coming in. You have to clean up your pineal. So use toothpaste that does not have fluoride, and find water that is not fluoride infected, because they have put it into everything they can to dumb us down.
Yeah, I use for years, when I brush my teeth, I use hydrogen peroxide. I have it in a spray bottle. So you spray your toothbrush. I was lucky enough to find one of those old toothbrushes with the real bristles, not those plastic things. But I squirt the toothbrush and brush your teeth. It not only disinfects, you'll never have to worry about germs on your toothbrush, but then every other day or so, I will dip that hydrogen peroxide wet toothbrush in some baking soda, and that really scrubs your teeth. But I'll caution you, don't use Arm & Hammer. They have chemicals in the Arm & Hammer. Go to the health food store and get the good stuff, the real hydrogen peroxide. You can use Arm & Hammer if you want to clean your counter or your pots and pans, but I wouldn't ingest. I guess it's okay to brush your teeth with it, but don't swallow it. Just if you're going to brush, go to the health food store and get the real stuff.
Excellent. Wonderful. So that was a little sidebar, but again, any messages that are coming in, it's so important that we funnel these to you, so that, again, if these are your intentions, you can get there as quickly as possible. So we are on to our question and answers, although we have been answering quite a few questions as we go. There are a few that I do want to cover here, so we'll rip through these as quickly as we can, just to kind of get them on the record. So the first question being, gentlemen, being raised in a church environment, we had a question come in. What is the Holy Spirit then? So Bill, we'll get you to start, please.
That's that spirit that Jesus said that he and the Father would send us to teach us all things. This Holy Spirit is that voice that we've been talking about, not your voice, but the voice that you got a question. There's no question you can come up with. They're not able to answer. If you have a question, that doesn't matter how simple it is or how deep it is, ask. Instead of praying, just say, I want to know something. Can you tell me whatever you want to know? I don't care what question it is. Ask a question and just wait. You might get the answer right away. You might get it the next day. You might get it the next week. But you will know. I get my answers, like I say, with synchronicity, with the reoccurring numbers. You don't have to go to the church and ask a priest what the answer is. You don't have to go and ask your preacher. We all have that. If you belong to Christ, which you do, we all have the same DNA as Christ. We are related. If you are related, you will get the answer. Now, how it comes, the Holy Spirit will let you know uniquely in a way that you will understand. It might not make any sense to anybody else. When I tell some people I get some answers from 111, they say, "What? Are you crazy? You must be touching the head." Well, that's a fact. You're going to get an answer. I don't know if it's going to be numbers or whatever, but if you ask a question seriously and you want to know the answer, just wait for the answer. And it's really fun to realize when they'll give you the answer in a way that you will understand that's unique to you. There is no one set way. It's an individual thing. So forget about praying. Just ask.
Intentions, beautiful. And it's beautiful when you said that the Holy Spirit is all things. Well, we know that to come from the Akashic records. So when you think of the Holy Spirit, the Akashic records holds all that ever has been, all that ever will be, all that ever has been. So when you think about, the Holy Spirit, in a way, it's about connecting to all that is to give us the information of what it is that we need.
Yeah, and I'll just finish that one. It's encouraging us to look beyond the material, look beyond the things you can see, open your mind, create a space for other possibilities. Otherwise, our growth is limited to a 3D construct. Number 2.
Yes, well, my thoughts get away pretty quick about, okay, carry on, I lost it.
Okay. All right. So here's another question. What else has been hidden or manipulated in the Bible that is vital for us to know?
I'll field that one first and foremost. Again, equity, the opposing or the antithesis to iniquity. That one has been greatly hidden or camouflaged or buried. Again, in the King James Bible alone, equity is mentioned about 10 times. I went and did a little bit of surfing in some of these other versions of the Bible, and the word equity has been removed altogether. So if you don't know the fundamentals of what equity is, you're actually missing an entire scope of what the Bible's really trying to tell us. Again, the equity is the balance, it's the fairness, it's the justice, it's the truth, it's the honor, it's the uprightness, it's the righteousness.
It's the other side of the Hammurabi.
It's a critical component, which is why they definitely attacked that one first. Yes, it's still in there, but you have to know how to read it. You have to know what you're looking for. And this is where spirit, to piggyback on question number 1, if you read the book word for word and you leave it to your own process to understand it, you'll certainly be lacking potential. We need that. Where's that other voice coming from? Where's that inherent wisdom that you didn't have 10 minutes ago, but all of a sudden you got some? where did that come from? Well, again, that would be voice of spirit coming in. So for me, that would be my go-to answer is what have they hidden or manipulated? For me, definitely equity is one of the big ones.
How about you, Bill? What do you feel has been hidden or manipulated from the Bible that's vital that our
that's easy. I can hit that one right between the eyes. The thing that's been hidden from us is the truth. It's a matter, about this belief. I hope this don't get too long, but I want to explain belief to you. Every church will tell you, oh, if you don't believe, you've got a one-way ticket to hell. You've got to believe. Well, the last time I went to the States to visit, I went through the airport and I found that everything is facial recognition. You just walk through and they take a picture of your face. And I thought about, my fingerprints. There's nobody else out of 7.8 billion people that has the same fingerprint I do. And I got to thinking, well, my DNA, nobody has the same DNA that I do. And my eyes, you've heard of iridology. There's nobody that has eyes exactly like mine. Well, you know where I'm going with this. Out of 1.8 billion people on planet Earth, I am unique. You think these guys that put us together, you think they're not smart? How can you make 7.8 billion people and they're all different? And that's not even counting the ones that's been before us. So what I was saying, I am unique to any 7.8 billion and the people. Now, say for instance, if you could take my brain and make an imprint of it like my fingerprint, my belief system, there is not one person out of 7.8 billion that has the same belief I do. None of us ever believe exactly the same way. When you get to the microscope, but down to dissecting everybody's brain, nobody. So you don't ever expect me. Don't expect me to believe what you and I'm. So even in a congregation in a church, nobody believes the same thing when you get down to the microscope. So this belief system, that's why you can stuff belief up your nose, is because do you think Jesus would be stupid enough to set up some system based on man's belief when we don't know what to believe, we don't know where to believe, we don't know what? So forget this belief system. You go to church, there's even churches that's called the Believers Church. So anyway, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, what you can do with belief, you can stick it up your nose because we all believe different. Now, it's nice what you do believe. You need to believe the right thing, but don't pin us down to having the same exact belief, every one of us.
Exactly. And that's where feeling it comes in. A lot of it is through our belief systems, through our own personal filters. So that was fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, next question. What does it mean when Jesus nailed the law and the sin to the cross? Now, you've mentioned this a couple times, Bill. So let's get both of the opinions here. What do you feel it means, Bill, when Jesus nailed the law and the sin to the cross?
Well, it goes back to the Sumerian laws, and when Jehovah and Moses got together, I don't know who you blame, probably Jehovah. They said, let's take those laws and tie them to people and make them believe that if they don't do what we say or obey what the law is, that they're going to sin and go to hell. That's what the farce of it all. Jesus came along and said, played Jehovah's silly game, obeyed all of them. And when he obeyed all of them, that was the only stipulation Jehovah had, is you believe all of these, if you obey all of these, then I'm going to determine you righteous. Well, since no human could obey him, Jesus came along as a God, and he said, okay, he played Jehovah's silly game, and he obeyed him, and he became righteous. That's why we're all righteous. So when he nailed the law to the cross, when he got rid of the law, there was only one commandment in the Old Testament. That was the sin of unbelief, what I just addressed. if you didn't believe, you know, Jehovah was pretty angry. But the law, like I say, there was only one sin of unbelief. The rest of it was just transgression of the law. Do you realize when there is no law, there is no transgression? So when Jesus took the law away and nailed it to the cross, that did away with all transgressions. It's impossible if you go drive down the street and the speed limit, you go into a speed zone and it's 30 kilometers an hour. Well, that's a law. Now, what if somebody invaded the country like China or Russia or somebody, say Putin invaded us in North America, and he says, these speed laws are, you know, I'm going to change that. I'm going to do away with that law. Well, when you went in the speed zone, 30 clicks an hour yesterday, and there's no speed sign there today, are you speeding? No, the speed sign's been taken down. You can go 90 miles an hour, but you can still hit a brick wall and kill yourself. But there's no law. We shouldn't have a law telling us that we have to believe, not commit adultery, not sin, not murder somebody. We don't need a set of laws. So that's what nailing the law and sin to the cross, he did away with. There are no laws. Like I say, if you have one obligation, you're not free. Just when Jesus set you free, you are free indeed. You make one law. Like.
Oh, I like that. Oh, that was very good. Thank you, Bill. Fascinating. Okay, moving on to the next question. So this is going to be more for you, Bill, as far as how does it feel to be contacted by a Pleiadian, and how do you initiate contact?
Well, first off, it's fantastic to be honored, to be singled out, to be actually speaking to a Pleiadian. But I have a problem of, see, we keep talking about Pleiadians. I want to call it the Father, just like Jesus. You know, they're all Pleiadians there, but Jesus is narrowed it down to just the Father, that Spirit that teaches us all things. So it's not so much being contacted by the Pleiadians, it's the Father actually talking to me and answering my questions. The Father, can you imagine the Father speaking to you personally? Now, Jesus said, I'm going to go to the Father and we're going to send you back the Spirit of truth. Now, if that's not true, Jesus was a fraud, a fake, and an imposter. And we know that he's not. So when he said it, we can hear personally from the Father, and we are all special. I'm no special than anybody else. Even the least to the greatest can hear. All you have to do, I like to say, I'm not special. You all hear. We all hear. We just don't realize it. Did I lose somebody? I can't.
Sorry. What special messages would you say that the Pleiadians have for us right now then? That was one of our questions we had.
Get rid of religion. Get rid of academia. Get rid of the
academia. Can you explain
academia? College
world.
The Rockefellers?
The Rockefeller and the Rothschilds version of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, get rid of that.
No. There's a lot of parents that sent their children off to academia, like the colleges like Yale and Harvard and those guys, even down to the high schools. They have been taught, like I say, the kids go off to college and they come back a different person. Parents doesn't even recognize them. They've been turned into socialists. Their minds have been raped into, You see, you have capitalism, socialism, and communism. The way from capitalism to communism is socialism. That's why it's a soft kill. Get us all into, you want to have tears come to your eyes. Read about that girl that escaped from North Korea. Her name is Park, I think. She was born in North Korea. And that's where socialism will lead you, is to communism. The sad thing is, when she finally got out, someone took her to the store one time to buy her some clothes. They were in a department store, and there were some tops, like pullover tops, hanging on a rack. And they said, which one would you like? Would you like a blue one, or this white one, or this red one? And she said, you mean I can choose? She hadn't any idea what it was like to choose even a top. This is where socialism will take you. This is where academia will take you. So we've got to get rid of all of these empires, religion, academia, the schools of learning, all of these colleges. They're run by the Rockefellers, they're run by the Jesuits, even the pharmaceutical companies. They're just poisoning us. They're just drug dealers. So everything is going to be cleaned out. And I'm thinking this is Red October. I think, this thing that's everybody's got the hair on their back and that's raised, something big is going to happen either in October or Red October. I hate that. I've got a lot of trouble quoting dates, but it's so close. All of these things that we've been praying for people have been praying for these things for like thousands of years. Do you realize how privileged we are to be alive on planet Earth today, the most exciting time to be alive on planet Earth? And I'm hitting these guys right between the eyes, the Vatican and the Jesuits and the Pope. I'm putting myself in the crosshairs. Now, here in Canada, when you reach 70, I think you have to have a physical for get your driver's license, which is a fee. Then you go to get another, that's your physical. Go to get your driver's license, that's another fee. Well, when you get the physical, you get your eyes checked and how much wax you have in your ears. But I go for the Beaumonde. I tell the doctor, give me a full physical. Well, this last month I had a physical, and the doctor told me that I have the heart and the kidneys of a 30-year-old. So if I could drop dead tomorrow, but if you hear about me being hung from a doorknob, you'll know that I had a little help. I wouldn't take myself out of the loop now for anything, because this is the most exciting, in the future. It's so indescribably fantastic what's just around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's just so beautiful. Beautiful. And you know what? It is an exciting time, and there is so much beauty that people that understand what's going on are able to keep their eye on, but there are many that cannot. And that moves us into our next question here for you. And I'd actually like to take it from both of you gentlemen, because again, there is a clear line in the sand that's going on with people who want to put certain things in their body and believe the narrative versus people who don't want to put something in their body and see the programming behind it. Now, how do we teach the process of enlightenment to our loved ones that are fearful, uncertain, and believe that their singular life on earth is all there is? Is the ability to let go of those we care so deeply about one of the lessons we are here to learn? So, gentlemen, how do we deal with loved ones who think completely polar opposite of us? How do we deal with that, especially when they're close to us?
Well, we were told through the teachings of the wise one to not attach to our earthly families first and foremost. Connect with Spirit Father and the holy rulers, if you will. They will provide the guiding light, not your mom, not your dad, not your brother. They are all confused, every single one of them. I haven't met one yet that's not confused. So take that with a grain of salt. Again, place your questions in a party or in an entity that has the capability of providing the correct answers. Don't be looking for wisdom, truth, honesty, and all those good things from people that are walking around as graven images, so sick, so deathly, so full of sin that they don't know what's up or down. direct your energies where they would be most appropriate to start with, for sure.
And again, also not taking it personally. When I got, when I was starting to come to understand what was going on with all of the present affairs, that was one thing. I was trying to connect to these people and convince them. And I could tell that there is just a wall. And I was reminded of a teaching that one of my earlier wise guides taught me. And it's not to interfere with another soul's lesson. And at the same time, we all have our higher selves. And that higher self is directing each and every one of us. And when we go out of our lane and we bash our cart into another being to tell them what they're doing wrong, it can actually take their cart and get them further off track. So this is why we are such huge advocates of staying in your own lane, doing your own work, understanding that if that soul is deciding to go offline, okay, they're putting something into their body, their higher self is directing it. Their higher self on some level knows that they are offline and they're not able to come online for the ascension and what's supposed to happen. So that soul loves us all enough that they're going to take themselves offline to create room for what we're trying to do. That's why I send these loved ones love and light and gratitude. Thank you. Because if there's so many, and we didn't realize how many were offline until we realized the narrative and it came in and how many bought it and how many didn't. And if a soul wants to put something in their body, loved ones, let them. It's their body. It's their meat suit. It is their life. No one has a right to go in and say, you're making a wrong decision. Nothing is happening that shouldn't be happening. So for us to go and crash our opinion cart based on our belief systems into someone else's lane when they are doing the greatest act of love right now for our ascension, a big chunk of them have to go home. They do. In order for us to make room for what we need to do. If they're meant to come back online, they will. And we have to trust that source or their higher self, or they will find their way back if they're meant to. I mean, yes, I believe in med beds. There's some people we're going to be able to save. I already have a list of my friends who went, oh my God, Jody, I screwed up. Now I was so against what you were doing and I couldn't understand why you were fighting this. And I get it now. I've just lost this person, this person, this person. I have all these side effects. I can't believe I didn't see it. Saying, what do I do, Jody? And I have to tell them, you have to wait till the med beds come.
Hang on. Do the best you can between now and then.
So there are ones we can save. But the ones that battle us all the time, stop feeding them. Stay in your own lane. The best way for the world to ascend is for us to each individually do our own work. And through example, they will come to us and go, wow, what are you doing? You look great. Or you're glowing. Or why are you so happy? Or things seem to be going your way. What are you involved with? I'm a firm believer that we need to live in such a way that people come to us, we don't go to them. Yes, you can be inspired to put out messages, to put out concerns. You'll see my posts, I do. But I don't feed the narrative. It's already got enough people feeding it. I just try to put my sprinkles of light out there. And the ones that catch it do. And they message me all the time. I've taught a lot of people in the past. And when I came out right away going, this is wrong, I got a lot of flack. A lot of us did. But again, if we're going to help people get to enlightenment, we do this by example, not by shoving it down their throat or going, look at me, my new refound meditation skills. I'm so much better than you. and let me show you all your faults and why you need to do this as well. That doesn't help. Never mind when it's your spouse or a family member. You want to see some resistance.
Yeah, it's a tough go. But again, that's part of the tribulations that we're living right now, is how do we deal with the tough go so that we learn something tough. If you want to learn a whole bunch of marshmallow lessons, have at it. I'd rather learn the brick to the forehead lessons. I'm thinking there's going to be
That's how
more
you jump timelines.
There's going to be more value with those versions. But yeah.
Okay, last question. Should we be afraid of the reptilians? I know we talk a lot about them, but let's shed a little bit of light on that. Bill, I'm going to let you start with that.
Should we be afraid of the reptilians? Well, I would say yes, because they've been our problem for the last 6,000 years. But I'm going to have to correct myself. No, we should not be afraid of the reptilians, because that's their food, that's their dessert. The more afraid they can make us, they're just sucking it right up, and they get more energy by our fear. So we've got to quit fearing the reptilians. I was surprised to find out, there's bad reptilians and there's good reptilians. There's bad Pleiadians and there's good Pleiadians. I'll turn all of those guys. You've heard the term as above, so below. We've got scumbags on earth here. We've got serial killers, we've got rapists, we've got thieves. But there's planes flying around 747s. You can walk out the door and one could fall on your head. But you can't be afraid. You have to go out and not be afraid, even though there's bad guys out there. So don't be afraid of anything. Know that you belong to the Father, those that invented us, and everything is going to work out just fine when we actually get it through our thick head and know good and evil that qualifies us to go on through the universe doing what we've been invented, created for. Then, but no, the simple answer is don't be afraid of reptilians. Be just wise to the devices of their devices. They have been beguiling us. Eve was not the only one that got screwed. We get screwed every time we every time we get up. So just be wise of the reptilians. Don't be afraid of them. Just stand your ground. And about these people, how are we going to save? How can we help our loved ones? I know better than most people for the last 50 or 60 years. I've been a conspiracy theorist. I've been trying to wake people up. And in the last 50 or 60 years, the people that I've actually got through to and woke up, I can probably count on one hand. There's just some people. Now I'll give an example of if you see somebody going to hell. Now I don't believe in hell. I'm just giving that as an example. You see someone going to hell and you grab a hold of their hand and you start pulling them. No, don't go that way. Don't go to hell. Come on. So the further, they just keep pulling you further and further. There comes a point that you're either going to have to go to hell with them, or you're going to have to turn loose. So these people that insist on taking the V, you see people riding around in a car with a window rolled up, with a mask on. You can't help those people. There's no help. You've got to realize that. I have heard something that almost made me cry the other day. This woman said, well, I had to get the V because I want to go see my grandkids. Well, if you follow that to the end, we've been told don't trade safety for liberty. She just traded her liberty for safety. If you follow that to the end, her grandkids will never know freedom. It leads right to tyranny. That's the sad part of it is. So you can't say some people, when I tell somebody something and they say, well, I got to check this out. So they go to the fact checker. And when they go to come back and tell me, oh, I went to the fact checker, you're wrong. Well, all I can tell those people is to turn over and go back to sleep. We'll just wake you up when it's all over.
Oh, what a beautiful way of saying that.
Okay, and I'm going to throw one more on there for the fearing the reptilians. Let's just say the fear is real. Let's just assume that a lot of people are fearing it. Let's use that then as a motivator. Get yourself in a position where you're no longer fearful. Do your work. Find your faith. Get yourself clean. Get yourself healthy. Get yourself empowered. Get yourself surrounded by loved ones who actually give a shit about you, and watch what happens to your life.
Yep.
That's right. Feed what you want to grow. That is huge. Put energy into things that make you feel good, that bring you joy. And when you are putting them into black holes, there's a reason we're black sheep, because we're not supposed to be in the black holes. So be a black sheep, own it, wear it, know that you are meant to make jumps on a energetic and quantum level for your family. And the only way you do that is if you stay in your own lane and do your own work. And we're big advocates of that. And so we know we've run a little bit later here. Bill has actually offered to stay on any of our KïnderGardën classes to kind of put in some Bible study afterwards, to be able to put a new spin and understanding, to drop his new messages with us. So thank you so much for offering that. It's fantastic. And we will definitely take you up on that offer. In closing, we are going to talk about our part 2 to this. You kind of laid a very nice foundation, and part 2 is when Divergence is going to go into equity and aliens. So we're going to talk about the hidden half of the Hammurabi Code. They kept the legal side and they removed the equity side. So we're going to talk about that because we're getting some messages on that right now. We're going to talk about identifying the aliens among us. So Darren, do you want to talk on that briefly?
They're a lot closer than you think. They're a lot closer to your heart than you might think. And once you have the equity eyeballs, you'll be able to see who the real aliens are. And for example, I'm going to throw one out there that there's probably 3 aliens on this Zoom meeting tonight. Once we start to identify who the aliens are and how they relate to the legal system, you're going to get some interesting equitable twists here as to who the parties to this contract are. It's going to be pretty neat.
So keep your heart open, loved ones. Keep your mind open. Feel this energy. That's all we ask. We're not trying to brainwash you. We're saying we're going to drop new information. You don't think there's new information coming? Get used to it. This is a slow drip to see how your meat suit handles it and to be able to learn tools so that you learn how to process it. So that's why we're going to go into something also called alien and scripture. So we're going to start, like Bill's been talking about, there's a lot of scripture that talks about alien. I had no idea. Why is the Bible talking about something outside of our scope? I was taught as a Jehovah's Witness that nothing happens outside of the world. That everything, there's no existence outside. So to hear that the Bible talks about alien, like, wow, it's just, again, those more and more filters that are coming off.
And yeah, the book of Enoch, the book of Toth, there's lots more information hiding around the corner for us if you're willing to seek it, if you're willing to go there. For the most of the Bible Kool-Aid drinkers, they're not interested in that word at all. So again, it's all about how much work and how much obedience you want to apply to this situation. But yeah, there's some neat twists coming to this story.
And I was telling, Darren already knew he wanted to do part 2. And so he was just doing a little bit of research. And we already have a whole page of information that came in and scripture and how it relates. And again, when you read it with equity eyes, it has a whole other meaning. It's like it just makes so much more sense. So we're so excited to share this with you. And the last part about Christ's return clarified.
We think we have a few insights here that might want to, tune in your DNA antenna because you might want to hear some of these answers. But yeah, stay tuned.
And again, the Bible did not end in Revelation. The story is still playing out. We are all the story.
We're writing the Third Testament right now. Very few people know it though. So,
So
keep that quiet if you don't want to be called more of a conspiracy theorist, if you like.
we were asked to look for certain things in the Bible. There was, Bill talks about certain check marks, boxes that need to be checked to know that we are in those times. We're in those times right now, loved ones. And this is one thing, as someone who's read the Bible and is very, astute with it, I was like, I don't even know how I missed that the Bible's still going. The last chapters haven't been written. We were told to look for certain things. And again, the elite did a great job of just distracting us and keeping us busy and working. And how many of us are reading the Bible nowadays? You go to church, I can guarantee you most of those people are not sitting there scoping the Bible. They're doing what they have to. So we got distracted. And now this is about bringing us back onto that channel again and remembering where we are and what's being asked of us and what's going on right now and why this is so monumental as far as the decisions and the choices we make with our body. Did you want to talk about that?
They can see this?
No.
Screen?
We're going to show you real quickly. This is the last thing, I promise. Okay. Go for it.
So this is a verse that we were looking at earlier today, as a matter of fact. And we don't really need to read the whole thing here. We can post it on the group for you to
It's on this page.
to take a look at, but you're gonna have to read this one a few times to kind of finally put the equity eyes into perspective to see what this is talking about here. But what's the best way to do this? I'm not going to talk about this right now. We're going to save this for part 2. So it's important that you take a look at this right now. We're not interested in feedback on this right now, but consider this for information for the next meeting that we have regarding this. But once you have a look at this, you're going to start to feel a certain sense of, we're going to be correcting a mistake, an error in the record. One of us, either it's us or the state, is presumed to be an alien right now. So depending on that relationship and depending on how our perspective is tuned, we're going to want to fix an error. And if you go right to the bottom here, for this error, it happened to all the people. So that ties into we're born into sin, but how do we get out? Okay, so this is going to be an incredible journey as this thing starts to unfold. But again, we're talking about commandments here. We're talking about they knew they set us up to fail, and then they're just watching us to see how we reacted to it, how we responded to it. Did we overcome the burden of sin? Did we ascend? Did we make the journey? This is some pretty loaded stuff coming up, and I definitely encourage you to come around for the next time we talk about this stuff.
So that won't be next week. It'll be the following week. We next week are going to be talking about one of the first commandments from the 4 commandments. And Kim, what is that one, please?
Way to put me on the spot. I'm going places with this. It's the power of your word.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to go and speak about that. We're going to talk about spells that you actually put out to people through your words.
Your thoughts.
How they become viruses once they are accepted as belief systems. And how we're going around and we are actually practicing black magic with our words. And we don't even know it. This is why we are so adamant about being mindful of your words. Be careful of what you are speaking. We are going to put up some posts about this, but we've got some fantastic information that came in. It's going to help us really tweak this, take this to the next level. We're going to be jumping around a lot. We're going from advanced to beginners to intermediate to cover all the different people that we're bringing in. So again, October 22nd, thank you, Kim, is when we're going to do the Aliens of Equity. Next Friday, we're going to be doing the first agreement, which is the power of your word.
And just let me jump backwards real here quick to answer one of those questions respecting Alexander the Great. Yes, way back in his time, he paved the way for Christianity as we know it today. Was that an element, or was that an example of the first kingdom of the Father being restored here on earth? I'm going to say, yeah, it was an attempt at it, but it wasn't successful. It paved the way for who? For us. We were the ones meant to put the final story in place. And that's why we're not going to give up. And we're going to keep going because we got a job to do. Some of us are on a mission.
That's right.
If you choose to accept it.
Yeah. I'll drink your Kool-Aid, baby. Sorry, I just can't help keep dropping that joke. Anyways, loved ones, thank you so much for showing up. We know this one went a little bit long, but again, when we have a wonderful speaker like Bill on, we want to just take advantage of him as much as we can. So thank you for showing up, Bill, for gracing us with your wisdom.
Thanks,
and
Bill.
Your insights. It was fantastic. We hope to have you back again. In fact, if you can join us on that Aliens and Equity, we would absolutely love that. That would be fantastic. We'll be putting this up on YouTube. Kim, is there anything else that I need to mention?
Nope, that's pretty much everything.
Okay. Is there any last minute questions that any of you have at all, please? Or did we I think we did a good job of covering a lot of those. We covered some ground. Okay. I think we're
Yes,
good.
I've had fun, and anytime you want to do it again, I'm in.
Excellent.
I'll be in touch with you, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
Love you, Bill. Thank you so much. Love you, loved ones.
Love
and
you, everybody.
absolutely, we'll see you all soon.